With that said, I would accept a motion to approve the agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by John, seconded by Nat. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. You know what, I didn't go through attendance, I'm sorry. Real quick, board members present, Joe Topham is not, Nat Lowell,
Here.
John Kitchener, Hillary Rayport.
Here.
Alternate, Stephen Welch, Abby DiMolina.
I'm here.
Here.
Oh, that was Stephen, right? Great. And Howard. Staff members, Leslie Snell,
Here.
Meg Trudell,
Here.
Willem Saad,
Here.
and Catherine and Sarah. Great, thank you. All right, we've approved the agenda. We're on to public comment. These are for items that are not on our agenda, and comment will be limited to 3 minutes. Anyone online, Billy?
Surprise.
Welcome.
Thank you. Nat, it's good to see you back.
Thank you very much.
So
Name.
oh, sorry. Yep,
Not that
sorry.
we don't know.
Campbell Sutton. I have a couple of comments to make that I'll ask you about in a minute. First, I wanted to thank Billy for all of his help with the new website that is still a mess, but it was very helpful. I find on my Apple iPad, I cannot right-click, so ta-da. Let's see, so thank you. The other thing I wanted to ask about, I know 56 and 58 Baxter are on, and it's not open for public comment, and this isn't specifically about them, but it's this concept within the area, within these areas that are under threat of erosion, right? So you're taking 2 buildable lots and making them 4 in an area that really is, we're doing all kinds of work to try and make sure that the cliff stays in place. So I think I don't know if it's building department or whatever, but I think slabs need to be considered instead of the concept of full, 10-foot basements, finished basements in this area, because that's a lot of heavy equipment. It's a lot of sand removal, which maybe you can use further up the road to dump over the edge. But, it's not all that far away from the edge, and it just seems like a lot of disturbance. So I just wanted to put that out there to whomever. The other thing I had was on short-term rentals, but I know it's coming up later, so I'm not sure whether I should say something now or whether you're actually going to talk about it, or whether it's going to be like, yes, we want to do something about that for the Springtown meeting. So maybe you could guide me on whether you wanted to hear anything.
So the hope about the posting is that we're gonna discuss as to whether we as a board want to take on an article. And we're not, I don't think, get much deeper than that at this point.
Okay, that's what I was
Depending
wondering.
on what the board decides, and then we'll be getting much deeper into it in following meetings.
Okay,
Does that make sense? So
Yes.
depending on what your question is, it might be appropriate to later, but if it's into the details, then
well,
I
it's more
think
like
you're
just
free to say
conceptual.
I
right?
would say that.
Public comment would be
Staff
better.
members, would that be fine here for her? Yes, please. So go ahead now.
Okay, so as we all know, the short-term rental issue is still on our plate, and that everywhere isn't working and nowhere doesn't work. So I feel like we need to be somewhere in the middle. So purely conceptually, and I'm just trying to throw it out there as possible nuances instead of trying to create some great, beautiful bylaw that's going to suddenly pass. So I've been thinking about this, and one of the things I've thought about is, to me, a home or a house that is in a residential neighborhood that is used for commercial use, in other words, primarily to make money, is not appropriate as commercial use of a residence, and would be more appropriate and should sort of be okay to have in commercial neighborhoods, any of the commercial things, whether it's Mid-Island, downtown, you get my drift on that. The other one is that, like, say it's someone like myself, and I have decided to rent a room in my house. I'm living in my house and I'm renting the room, right? I'd still sign up as a short-term rental, but that's almost a home occupation versus trying to get a short-term rental piece, and that might be okay. And let's say I had a garage apartment, or maybe I have a cottage or something, but I'm living in the primary home, and then the short-term rental of something while I'm living in my home would be an accessory use, right? Because it's accessory to the primary use. And then, let's see, okay, so then it sort of gets into sticky stuff. Like one of the things that keeps coming up is the estate piece. And so I would think that not under you guys specifically, but under the auspices of the short-term rental piece that's being designed, maybe you go for a special permit. And if you can show that previous to the inheritance, your home was used primarily as a summer residence, right? Then, okay, we can do the short-term rental as that thing where everyone's saying, yeah, but I inherited this house, my family can't afford it. Yeah. So that was a thought on that. Then as far as primary use, I thought, okay, so I primarily use my house year-round, but some people primarily use their home as a second summer residence, right? So that's still a primary use of your summer residence. So maybe there's something in there where you can have something accessory use. Anyway, I'm just trying to throw out different ways to think about what we have in front of us. And some of them might be able to be bundled, and yes, that's great. And others may, need to be nuanced. But sorry to take up your time. I know we have a long evening. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Campbell. And stay tuned. There will be a lot of discussion about short-term rentals coming soon. Anybody else, Billy? Anyone online?
No hands are raised
Okay,
online.
great. From here, we're going to move on to minutes for July 14th.
Second.
Any questions? All right, motion made by Nat, seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We're going to go to second dwellings and garage apartments. Is there anyone that wants to pull out any particular application here, or are we going to vote them as a whole? All right, I would entertain a motion. We're talking about Daniel P. Murphy, 8 Gulfview Drive, Robert L. Roy, 25 Hussey Street, and Laurent Arejo, 54 Bartlett Road. Those are second dwellings. And garage apartments is Third Time Trust, 41A Cliff Road, and Sunshine Dream LLC, 5 Huckleberry Lane.
Move approval for staff recommendations.
Motion made by Nat, seconded by John. All in favor? Aye. That's unanimous. On to A&Rs. Thomas C. Holt, Revocable Trust, Maya Howard, Revocable Trust, 10 Bayberry Lane, Cyril C. and Judith L. Ross at 12 Oak Hollow Lane, and ABCET LLC at 56 and 58 Baxter Road. Does anyone need us to pull anything out here? No? Okay. I would entertain a motion, please.
So moved as in the staff report.
Second.
All right. Motion made by Hillary, seconded by Nat. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And that's unanimous as well. We are on to previous plans. We have 40 Old South Road LLC, 2A and 2B Forest Ave.
Figured it out.
Meg, who's representing this?
Arthur Reed, and I'm moving Arthur over
Okay, great.
right now.
Well, it's Art as well.
And so maybe move
We're good.
both of them over. Art, are you with us?
I'll text him. Is he,
He's
where is
online,
he?
right?
Is he there?
He's, Art Gasparo's coming over right now.
Okay, there we go.
I lost Arthur Reed.
Arthur's up there.
Oh, he's on? Okay.
I'm on. Art will carry the ball on us to start.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would you like me to proceed?
Please, Arthur, welcome.
So we're before you tonight to request a minor modification to the approved site plan at these two properties that are being developed together on Forest Ave. And with the application, we included both the approved plan and the proposed. What's before you right now, oh, it just got scrolled, was the approved plan where the rear two structures were closer in footprint to match the front two structures. Through the HDC process, what ended up happening is those back two structures were increased in size to match the middle structures. And so in doing so, we relocated the parking made those structures consistent with the middle structures and then relocated the parking to the interior of those structures. And that's what you see on the plan in front of you. The overall number of bedrooms remains as approved. And so the footprints have changed and the parking layout the general scope is the same with a common driveway coming in. That didn't change. It's just a modification. And then we did have a slight decrease in provided bedrooms, but we still far exceed the 12 that are required for the development. So we hope that we've added some landscaping as well to this. The other thing that we added was a fire hydrant in front of the property, which was requested by the fire department. So we had sent them the plans for review as well. And so, should you have any questions or concerns, Arthur or I are here to try to address them.
Great, thank you, Art. Board members? Questions, concerns?
Yeah.
I don't have any questions or concerns about this, but I have a general comment about when these modifications happen. I think it would be helpful to include the minutes of a past hearing, just so we can see, what were the concerns? I didn't serve on this, so I didn't hear it.
When you say that, do you mean the HTC minutes?
No, the planning board
planning board.
minutes from the hearing.
Okay.
But not relevant to this at all. Don't mean to point out anything about this particular application, but it's just a little hard to know in general when you look at something and it's asked for a change. Well, okay, what did we approve?
Yep.
To see them side by side and see the minutes. Is that something that makes sense to people? Megan's looking like.
I mean, I think the decision was included, isn't it?
In the application, I believe it.
The decision is usually included, although I
Oh,
don't
it's
see it
not
in this
here.
one.
Oh,
It's not in
alright.
this one, but it is in the other. But just the discussion about what the points of sensitivity were when, people show up, they testify, and it's hard to
So-
remember.
I should clarify the scope of a minor modification really is to evaluate the decision itself, not necessarily how the board came to that decision. And then, does it meet the criteria of minor mod or not? Ultimately, that's up to the board to determine. Staff recommended that it does in this instance because the unit count remains unchanged, the bedroom count remains unchanged, and the parking, well, I believe maybe 2 spaces were eliminated, does still meet the requirements of the bylaw. But if, just for your own kind of research purposes, I'd be happy to help facilitate that for future.
Thanks.
Yep.
Great, thank you. Any other board members? Questions, concerns? I'd entertain a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minor modification with the finding. There's the original finding, and then we have the new condition. That the original remains in full force.
Yep,
Okay?
great. We have a second?
Nice to have-
Motion made by Nat, seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous. Thank you,
Thank you.
gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, there it is.
These plans, okay. Public hearings, got a couple, ones here we need to vote on. First is being a request of withdrawal without prejudice for, Old
Mr.
South
Chair,
Road.
Wait, I think
I'm
we
sorry,
have
we
some.
skipped two more, we have two more
Yeah, we got,
previous plans.
yeah, we got Richmond, and we got,
Okay, I apologize.
that's all right, Dave.
I don't know why I get mixed up between my draft and my final copies. So, Richmond, Great Point Property, Sandpiper Place, previous plans.
So they are looking for a partial release of their performance surety in the amount of $43,636. That aligns with different parts of the punch list that were assigned dollar values that the board accepted for the performance surety plus the 20%. Ed Pesci has inspected and signed off that those items have been completed, so our recommendation is to release the funding back to the applicant in that amount. So we'd still be holding roughly $600,000.
Okay, great. Questions from the board? Nope. All righty, entertain a motion.
Make a motion to partial release all says surety account of 43,676.
Second.
All right, motion made by John, seconded by Nat. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. On to Nantucket Houseworks, Inc., 4 Spearhead Drive LLC, 2 Spearhead LLC, 2468 Spearhead Road, and 9 Arrowhead Drive. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rick Bodett for the applicant. Let me first apologize. I forgot I was coming here today until about an hour ago, and so this is my first and hopefully last appearance at the planning board in flip-flops. So request for a minor modification. You might remember we were here in the spring to get a special permit for this property. We made some minor adjustments to the design. It did go to the HDC and they put it on consent. We are shifting from 10 storage units to 12. And there is a slight increase in the size. It's 81 square feet between the two buildings, very small. There is a corresponding decrease in green space, 81 square feet. And that's it. Nothing else changes. You might remember the biggest discussion at the public hearing was related to the 5 curb cuts. That is not changing at all. We're not increasing the number of curb cuts. There are still 4 on the outside and a 5th one in front. And that's it. We hope you'll find that this doesn't materially affect the decision.
Board members.
So this is,
I just have a question, just something, I'm sure there's something I'm missing here, but I was just confused about the building. The building A, Billy, could you put it's page 17 of the PDF up on the screen, or page 15, 16, 17? Maybe page 15, yeah. So you can see this is building A, which has 8 parking spots in it. And there's garage access on the right side of the building. Is there garage access on the left side of the building too? Like, how are the cars getting in and out on the left side?
Yeah, that's a good question, and you weren't here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
all of the units besides those 4 you're looking at are accessed on the interior of the site. And so
Right.
that, when I mentioned that the big discussion at the public hearing was about the curb cuts. It was about those 4 curb cuts. So that isn't changing, but those 4 will be accessed from the outside street. All the other units are accessed on the interior of the site through the 5th curb cut, which is on the other street.
I see. So there's one curb cut to serve that portion of the building.
All the other units, yes, yes.
Okay, because I also looked at the plan, because I of course thought about that, but they must be going under the mezzanine, or it's, the driving space is not delineated in the plan, but you're saying that there's enough space to accommodate that.
Yes, in fact, we pulled the buildings apart through this whole process as well, and even looked at eliminating those 4 curb cuts on the street side, and couldn't do it.
I'm certainly not thinking that you didn't think about that, I just didn't understand it.
Yeah.
So thanks for explaining it.
And you're still within your green space.
Yeah, sorry, I forgot to mention that. Yes, we reduced it, but yeah, still within the limit, over the limit.
Great. Any more questions? Anybody online, Bill?
It's all coming back to me now with the curb cut.
Yep. All right, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the minor modification with the finding that the applicant's request is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the zoning bylaw, and the condition that all conditions of the original approval are in full force and effect.
Second?
Great. Nat, motion made by Nat, seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that's unanimous. Thank you. Okay, now on the public hearing.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you. So we have 2 continuations and a request for withdrawal. So the first one, Cliffside Beach Club, Inc., 46 Jefferson Ave, to be continued to September 8th, 2025. I'd entertain a motion on that.
Motion to continue.
Second?
Motion made by Nat, seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous. Klaus Kleinfeld, 13 Hawk Circle, is going to be continued again to September 8th, 2025. I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to continue.
Second?
Motion made by Nat, seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
We have a request to withdraw without prejudice from, I can't pronounce that,
Right.
Quiet Pen LLC, Old South Road, 111A Old South Road, and portion of 109 Old South Road. This is a request to withdraw without prejudice. I entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the withdrawal without prejudice.
Second?
Motion made by Nat, seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Gentlemen,
Aye, sorry.
thank you.
And what we do next
All right,
one.
now we're on to Richmond Company, Inc., 12 Nancy Ann Lane, LLC, 12 and 14 Nancy Ann Lane. Meg, is this you, or?
Andrew Burrick should
Oh,
be
great.
online. If you could bring him
Andrew
over, Billy.
Bjerg's moving over right now.
Great. Welcome, Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as stated in the application materials, this is a request to keep and maintain a series of storage containers to continue an existing use at the property at 12 and 14 Nancy Ann Lane in support of construction that's continuing to be undergoing within the multifamily, commercial, and single-family portions of the Richmond Great Point Development Project. You may note in the application materials, one of the trailers that's one of the containers that we're seeking to maintain is an office-style trailer, a typical leased construction office, which is utilized by different subcontractors and our general contractors for various portions of the jobs. And the other portion of the request is simply to keep and maintain several storage containers that are in support of that ongoing construction. So with that background, I'll entertain any questions.
Great, thank you, Andrew. Board members? Questions, concerns?
Anyone else raise a question?
Give me 1 second and I will go to the public. So just give me 1 more second. Is everyone good here? Questions, concerns?
So this is currently a subject of a zoning enforcement action because there are already, how many trailers there? There are 9 there. And what is the outcome? Can someone let me know, like, what's the threat of the zoning action? They have to remove it, right? Or they get a fine?
We could find them. I mean, typically, that's not very effective. So probably something would be filed in Superior Court to discuss it with the judge.
And did they come to us and talk to us at all, or they did, like, how long have they been there?
I'm not really sure. Maybe Andrew Burek could answer that question.
How long have the 9 been there?
Andrew, can you tell us how long the 9 trailers have been there?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. They've been there for about under 6 months. They're not trailers, they are storage containers. The storage containers support the construction of modular homes. So I'm sure, as the members of the board are likely aware, that a majority of the construction that was undertaken in the residential portions, meaning both the multifamily and the single family houses that were constructed in the development, are largely modular. They come in off the barge, they are trucked to the site, they are put in place on top of foundations by crane, and they are later buttoned up and constructed. They're, roughly finished by the time they get tied together. However, there's a large component of work that's undertaken at the site for which, materials are shipped in these storage containers. So, think doors and windows and trim, other construction supplies and materials that are used by the contractors that are maintained in an orderly fashion and labeled by the manufacturer, the fabricator of these modular homes, so that they can be taken out in sequence. And that's why they're not always the same storage container. They are rotated out as the homes come over. So they are filled, emptied, shipped back, filled, emptied, shipped back in sequence as the builds are underway.
Great,
Thank you.
Andrew, thank you.
Okay. So this is,
Anyone else before I go to the public? Sir? State your name, please.
Robert Goldzer, I live at 77 Goldfinch Drive in Naushop. I was here about a different topic, which I'll speak about later. But I was just wondering if these are visible from Old South Road,
I'm not sure that they are.
because, I mean, there's so much going on there. So if any way that these can be made non-visible and pushed backwards so that they're not quite so visible would be pleasant for the environment.
Would agree, we're getting there. Andrew, could you tell me how long you foresee trailers being here?
Yeah, the storage containers, I think we would need to maintain for a maximum of 24 months.
Okay.
yeah.
I think what, at least for me, would make me more comfortable would be a screening plan or a landscape plan to help buffer this from not only the homes, but from Old South Road and from everyone else. I think we've done that for many people that have come before us for these applications. So that, I think that at the minimum, but any other board members have any suggestions?
I have another question about the process, and so was it a complaint, or did we take the action?
So probably 6 months ago at Plus, we hired a part-time zoning enforcement person. So since we have someone that's dedicated to that, you're going to see a lot more applications like this because they're driving around, they're looking for things that need to be permitted that aren't.
Good. But it wasn't like a neighbor came and complained. And I just mentioned that because we've had a lot of discussions right adjacent to this property where the topic has been, how do we work with our neighbors? How do we get the easement to be where we want? So we have connected parking and we have a pedestrian path to the transit stations on Old South Road. And we do hear a lot of, well, we're trying to work with our neighbor, but it's not really working. I have heard that. I don't want to say we hear a lot of it because we've also heard, yes, we're starting to have conversations. So that's a very positive aspect. But I wondered if there had been a complaint and if the neighbor had, if we talked to the owner of the jiu-jitsu studio if they had an opportunity to be aware that we're talking about this today.
This isn't the jujitsu studio.
Oh, it's not there
No,
where
this is a property
Storage
owned
and
by
office.
Richmond. This
No,
is-
I know, but it's adjacent to, it's
adjacent
right
to the-
behind the liquor store.
It's adjacent
Just a
to
little
the,
further
to
away.
the applicant we had that had, yes, you're correct. but
Yeah.
It's not owned by the same.
No, I know, that's
yeah,
what,
yeah.
but I'm saying they're trying to have conversations to work out the easement
Oh,
and the
yes.
path and
At-
where that's all going
At
to
some
happen.
point, that's
Yeah.
happening, yes.
So I'm pleased that that we're going to get it permitted, and I agree with the screening. But I also think it's an opportunity to recognize that there's a lot of productivity happening in this area, and it's an
exactly.
industrial site
Yeah.
and construction site next to areas that have kids and have retail. So it's an opportunity for a conversation about, between the neighbors.
For sure.
Can I just, through you,
great
Mr.
Messiah
Chairman,
is
now I'm starting to figure out what's going on here now. Hey, Leslie, okay. And Andrew, you can hear me, right, Andrew? Okay.
I can't hear you, Matt. Thank you.
By the infamous dirt pile. It had to get removed. Now you can
Yes.
see it, because we didn't want to look at dirt. Now we don't want to look at the trailers, right? Oh, God, only on Nantucket. So, Andrew, 2 years you think you got left?
I think that's and we'd be willing to accept a condition where if there's
Yeah.
a finite time frame, we'll come back to
We
the
need
board for an
put a
extension.
time- I think we need to put something in for 12 months, like a restaurant that just opened, so something like that, where we try to reduce the amount of stuff over there, putting it towards the back, so it's sort of screened by the front commercial buildings a little bit. You got to remember, if everybody knows this, you don't get modulars in the summer. If I had my way, we would be, but I don't get my way with that. So it's hard to schedule arrivals of things, and they show up, and then you got to put them somewhere because they're not ready to go on the foundation. I mean, it's just, there's a lot involved. And we've never had a project like this with this many buildings with modulars. If everybody was building them by stick, you wouldn't even have this going on. But this is part of the future, is going to have more modulars. However, in a place like this, there has to be a place to put them. And this spot was available. I can see why this is sort of metastasized into what it is now. I think what we got to do, Andrew, is put a condition in to revisit this. Do you think 12 months is good, Leslie, or do you want to do something sooner? I mean, I don't know. He said 24, so I figured we'd do something halfway through.
Are you talking about reviewing the screening? that they put in?
Reviewing the conditions, have we moved things to try to make it less visible from Old South Road? I don't know,
But
just
if I
the
can
screening, I mean, is it gonna be
interrupt for a
temporary? Because
second.
the fencing we're seeing along Sparks Avenue isn't so great looking either.
Well, it's
I
gonna
mean,
have
I'm
to be
just saying.
temporary. We're not gonna make them build out.
You can't plant
something.
trees temporarily.
But these aren't boxes we're hiding. These
I know,
are
there's-
actually.
no, I know.
Storage
I know,
containers.
I know.
Okay.
They have to put
All right.
stuff inside
Yes, yes.
the
So
building.
they have run screening down Ironwood in the form of
Green
fencing, like a green or black fence that you can't see through.
This, like what we're seeing now at Sparks Ave. And there's
A
a
little
few
bit, a
jobs
little
with this
bit
now.
more sturdy than that, but yes.
Okay.
It does not block view of the construction trailer, but it does block most of the view for the storage containers.
Okay, but this was a zoning enforcement thing, not a neighborhood issue, so what?
I think you all should, if you're inclined to approve it with conditions. And then if it needs additional enforcement, then we'll proceed that way. I don't think you need to revisit it in 12 months or
Okay,
6
okay.
months.
No,
All right.
and I hate to say it, green fence isn't my first choice,
This is,
right?
right, I mean, we've never talked about this stuff before.
What is
Through you,
your-
Mr. Chair, that the fence here is black.
Or black, either way, I don't think it's a good look, and I'd rather see some sort of vegetation screening. We've actually made other people paint all of their containers the same color so they match. So there's a lot we can do, but I
If they
feel
were
that if
permanent.
we can, they were permanent. I feel like if we can, you could put up some vegetative screening, maybe just even to hide the fence. I think it'll be a better look than some gross green or black fence sitting out in the middle of a field that's pretty exposed that everyone can drive by. My personal opinion, I don't know how the rest of the board members feel.
I personally would prefer a fence. I think the vegetation, it's just, it sounds good. It's really hard to inexpensive
it's gotta
to
get taken
implement.
I know it's expensive.
And the plants get abused and die and eaten. And it is a construction site. I mean, we recognize it's a construction site. It has to be there. We need it. I personally would prefer, you know, the green fabric fences with the wood posts actually are, I have one on the lot directly next to me and it's made a huge difference. So I support that, but I would like to revisit it in 12 months because it just gives us an opportunity to stay close to what is not just a construction issue, it's a neighborhood issue. Because we have people investing and developing and trying to make neighborhoods right next to this. And I also wanted to note that our staff has recommended 7 containers and 1 trailer.
I was going to ask, sorry if I may, thanks for bringing that up. Billy was away. We haven't had a chance to connect about this, and I was wondering if that may have been a typo in the staff report, since they have 9.
Andrew
now.
has
They
his-
asked
Right,
for-
Andrew has his hand raised, and I'm wondering if the quantity changed during that time, and I may have
because
missed it.
There was someplace it says 10 and someplace else it says 15.
I think that's, I think I'd put my staff report together. I was away all last week, so I put it together like 3 weeks ago, and I think some things have changed. So Andrew, can you clarify that for us?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair, thank you. We're looking for 9. That's the accurate number. And with respect to the vegetative screening, I'd also like to offer that, you know, back to Nat's comment with this being the summer, I know we're having a water shortage issue locally. Having those plants take would be a real undertaking and use a lot of water where we're already, you know, effectively screening a temporary condition, in my view. And as a final editorial comment, I think the fencing looks pretty attractive compared to the legacy uses a little further down Ironwood Road as you get into the more industrial core of that subdivision. So
That's
right about
more
that.
than fair, Andrew,
Yeah.
more than fair.
Legacy, that was a very nice word to use.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't want to surround it with relocated sheds from other people's property.
No, okay.
I'm thinking about the large construction vehicles that block everybody's right of way, but that's a separate enforcement issue that I haven't raised.
Okay, so we got 9 containers and 1 what was
Trailer.
it? Trailer, okay.
Lori, yours, my
Hi,
Oh,
Campbell Sutton, just to speak at the public hearing portion of it. So I'm glad to hear it's 9, because I thought 15 is a bit excessive, because it's 15 plus 1, right? So this is sort of like 9 plus the office, or maybe it includes it. To sort of Hillary's point, and I was sort of thinking about it myself, we've been talking about trying to create more connectivity between Nancy and Lane and whatever the name of that other road is that's parallel to it at the top of the screen. And just as I'm looking at it here, it looks like you could create that connectivity pretty simply. If that's a lot, I don't have the map to see, but so the topmost yellow marks, nope, left there. That one to the left of that, you see where there's that, to the left of the box. Nope, I'm losing it. Right, I wasn't speaking of that, but there is at the end of Area 2, to the left side of Area 2, there is what appears to be developing as a natural potential byway there, is all I'm saying. And to the vegetative screening, not specific to this, but I think sometimes when we're looking at construction, we have to remember that a lot of these construction sites are going to need plantings, and they store those plantings somewhere. And so, you know, vegetative screening that's going to be used later somewhere else, you know, may have use in some situations. So I'm not going to speak to this one, but I think we should try and keep that in mind, because somewhere the trees and shrubs, et cetera, that are going to be used on the individual lots need to be stored somewhere. So it's a potential storage site. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Campbell. All righty. Entertain a motion?
So I would like to make a motion, I'll give it a shot, that we grant the special permit to keep 9 storage containers, 10 feet each, and 1 construction trailer headquarters at the site. And that it be for a 2-year period with a revisitation after 12 months. And that it be adequately kept in the area shown on the plan and screened with fencing subject to, fabric fencing subject to staff
Yeah.
review. And that the neighbors be consulted
That's a tough one.
Think they'll see
at the
it.
will of the applicant and the neighbors.
Would you mind to alternate and activate an alternate, please?
Mr. Matz, sir, you are activated. So that's it.
Second, is there anything else?
Yeah, we need to close the, I'm sorry, you're right.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about adding the neighbors in.
Oh,
not-
sorry, I didn't mean that as part of the
okay.
motion.
All
I
right.
was
We're
just
good. All right.
ad-libbing about that.
Perfect. No, I mean, I just think it would
Remove
cause more
that.
problems. than it
Remove
would-
that from the
yeah,
motion,
okay.
although neighbors should talk to each other in general.
Anyone else in the public before we close the public hearing? I'm sorry, we're taking a circuitous route through this.
No hands
Okay, I take a motion.
Motion to close.
Motion made by Nat, seconded by John. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, and that's
On
unanimous.
Hillary's motion, I'll second Hillary's motion.
Okay. Motion made by Hillary, seconded by Nat. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's unanimous as well. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for your time.
Where'd he go?
You there, Andrew?
I'm here. Thank you, everyone, for your time.
Yep, thank you. Okay. We are on to LCAM Realty Co., 99 Goldfinch Drive. That is being represented by Arthur, maybe? Who's representing?
Yeah, it's Arthur Reed. He's being moved over
Okay.
right now.
Welcome, Arthur.
Thank you very much. Attorney Arthur Reed, representing Oceanus Health LLC as the applicant, which is actually a single-member LLC, of which the sole member is Dr. Rocco Monto, who I think most of you know has been the orthopedic surgeon on Nantucket for quite some years now. And he is relocating his practice, which is now at the hospital, and has found this site, which he has entered into a lease to move to late this fall. The building is an existing building that was originally the office headquarters for the Norshop development while it was under construction. Permitted as an office building, has a certificate of occupancy. Subsequently has been used by, it may have been others from time to time, and it's been in different ownerships. But it was at one time used by PASCON, Palliative and Supportive Care of Nantucket, and then was leased by the hospital for a while and is vacant at the present time. Dr. Monto's practice will be located on the first floor of the building. There are 2 garage bays on the site. That's not included in the lease. That's not involved with what he'll be doing. And the floor plan of the building shows 960 square feet that will be within the office space that he will have for his medical office. in the CN district where this is situated, medical clinic as defined is a use allowed by special permit. The definition of medical clinic basically includes any physician's office. So that would require us to be before the board for a special permit. Whereas regular office use, other than as a medical office, would not require us to be before the board. The area on the first floor is that will be in the medical office will also be added to the space in one of the upstairs units on the in the building. So for a total where the actual office will be located, as opposed to the area that will be used for patients. The total area, floor area involved is 1,460 square feet. There are 4 other offices within the building on the second and third floor. 3 of them are very small, approximately 100 square feet each, and then there's another one that's close to 400 square feet. And there are the 2 garage bays, and that's the total inventory of the space within the building. I think that basically covers what we're trying to do here. We think that Dr. Monto has, as I think everyone would agree, has provided medical services to the island. He's on the call here, would be able to discuss any of this with you. I think he's a widely beloved and accepted member of the community, and as I say, wants to be able to continue his practice. It's not easy finding a location that would be suitable for a medical practice. We think that this is uniquely suitable for the purpose, and hope you'll approve the application. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Arthur. Board members, I typically wait to say anything, but this isn't the first time, or wouldn't be the first time if we choose to do this, to encourage Mr. Monto or the applicant to work with the homeowners association to find an amenable place here. I think that, it's going to come down to, how many car trips there are a day, how many an hour. I think their parking's adequate, but I don't think it's our job as a board to stand between an HOA and a business that's going to happen in that neighborhood. And I would really encourage the applicant and all these people that are here to meet with the applicant and try to come to an agreement. And if that fails, then we'll mediate that. But I think to begin with, I think that a good, honest meeting and discussion with the applicant and the abutters is appropriate. I'm not discounting all the letters we got or how much all of you care, because this is important. But what I am saying is that you should try to work this out with the applicant first. And if that doesn't work out, we will happily mediate an outcome. How does the board members feel about that?
Yeah, I agree, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that hospital renting it, there was activity there that wasn't a residential activity, but it wasn't like commercial. It was more of just a certain number of vehicles. And when we had an application recently on Amelia Drive that went from a light commercial use to another light commercial use. But it's not the same one. People aren't used to it. And then so we you have to find a way to thread that needle. But with the HOA, Dave is right about that. I think that in your neighborhood, although this is in CN, when did that happen? That little piece is CN there?
When we phased out RC2 and the
We
rest of the,
got, we got rid of RC2 in North Shop and we made that CN and they have R5 now, right?
correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm right about that. So this piece was gonna stay some kind of different zoning than the residential part, which you never were residential until that got changed, by the way. And that was also due to the pump station, I'm assuming, too. So I do agree with the chair. I think you should discuss this, because this is not like a convenience store or a takeout or something that's gonna have a lot of vehicle traffic. This is gonna have, people with appointments, like less than a dentist office, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion.
No, I agree.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have a handle. I mean, and we could ask the applicant what he thinks that his visits will be on an hourly basis or on a daily basis and weekly basis. And I think that's all important information for you all to have before you make a decision. But again, I encourage you, I don't think it's the board's responsibility or place to stand between a homeowners association and other people in that homeowners association. That's the reason they exist.
This is a public hearing.
Yeah.
We're just,
We'd like to be heard.
We're getting
we're
there.
give, we're
we
give,
haven't
you'll be all
opened the
set.
public hearing
We're just
yet.
talking
I-
before you,
Yeah.
it's all good.
Oh, well, I guess I have a slightly different perspective. I mean, I think I just was saying it's important for neighbors to talk to one another, but I also think that as the planning board, it's our job to shape and encourage uses that we want to see in neighborhoods, because that is a professional responsibility. And I've seen a lot of situations where we've sort of said, okay, you guys work it out. And actually, people haven't worked it out, and they've come back even more angry. And it's taken many, many more meetings, and I don't know if we necessarily get a good outcome in the end.
The experience we've had is we've had a good outcome. And like I said,
I'm not
we're-
against
we're willing
it.
to
I just,
mediate it if it doesn't work.
I have a lot of questions, because I feel that what is in the packet, clearly the community is very much aligned in being against this. And that is meaningful. And they also have the addition, I mean, we're going to have a full public hearing, so we're going to hear it. But I did note that there was provided by Mr. Gentner the whole agreement. So this was foreseen that they would have additional deed restricted uses beyond what is allowed in the CN. And they were very specific that they didn't want, bedside care, bed care. They don't want a spa. I just had a lot of questions, Mr. Reed. I wanted to know much more fully how Dr. Monto expects to be using this facility. And I think that's something that should be shared with the benefit of everybody, the professional staff, the board, the community, being able to actually see it all and look at it through this process. So I wanted to take the time to really understand, to make up my own viewpoint and be able to deliberate it among the board members.
Okay. Would you like Mr. Reed to answer your question?
Well, I certainly don't want to ever not hear from Mr. Reed, but I also want to hear the public.
No, I do want to hear the public,
yeah.
but I also would like to hear Mr. Reed's
mean,
version
Yeah.
and how he feels that, what the traffic impact here is going to be, what Dr. Monto is planning for this site as far as hours of operation,
Yeah.
patient
Yeah,
load,
how many patients,
employees,
why
so on and
many
so forth.
parking, Yeah.
So if you could answer those questions,
I'd be,
helpful.
I'd be happy to, and as I mentioned, Dr. Monto is also on the call and can assist me with all of that, as well as answering any other questions that you may have of him. What we've been discussing has been that the office would be open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and Saturday mornings, the, there was a question as to approximately how many appointments there would be per day. All of the, this isn't a walk-in clinic. This is a medical office of a single practitioner, a single medical practitioner who would have up to three staff persons working for him. The number of appointments per day would range between 15 and 20 over an 8-hour day. That basically is it. As I say, it's an orthopedic surgeon's practice, and no further activity beyond that. I know that some of the neighbors were concerned because of the name of the corporation, of the LLC that would be operating it, that it might be affiliated with some other types of healthcare businesses. That's not the case. It's, as I say, it's a single practice of one surgeon.
So is there going to be surgery happening? Like, will there be surgeries happening on this site? Or is
Why
it
don't I
just,
let Dr. Monto come on and describe that, if you can unmute yourself, Rocco.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
We can.
Sorry, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak, and I've had the honor to serve the community and the people of Nantucket for over 20 years. So thank you for that, and thank you for today. Just to clarify, all I'm doing is running a small, low-volume office. I'm at that stage of my career. This is not going to be any surgery performed or any invasive procedures in this office. We'll still be on staff at the hospital. All the procedures are done there. I'm still maintaining my relationship. It's been a wonderful relationship. We'll continue to do that. So that's really that. I mean, many of the people in Township have seen me as patients, including the people that would share my parking lot. So I think a lot of people know who I am, what I do. It's no different than what I did at the hospital, just a different site. And it's low volume. We've actually taken some proactive stance here. We're using a direct text so that patients are informed about their appointments, so they don't come early. They don't come late. They come on time and they leave on time. I run a very tight shop, as it were. So I don't intend this to be any different. So I hope that clarifies things a little.
Dr. Monto, so 20 people, 20 patients max a day? in an
Max.
8-hour
Yep.
day?
Yes. Max.
So that three patients an hour about?
That's about right. Yes. Yeah.
will you have more than one patient coming at a time, or it's just
No,
you?
no, it's one in the office being seen, one getting ready to be seen or filling out paperwork, and that's the sort of our pace. That's kind of what we do now. It's no different than what I've done before. Maybe a slightly a little bit foot off the gas because that's what I want to do. So I don't want to have such a intense high volume practice. I want to be deliberate, intentional, and engaged with my patients and give them the time that they need.
What went into the calculation for the parking?
That's existing.
That's probably not a question for me. I think maybe Arthur could answer that.
The number of parking spaces that are required for a medical office are specified in the zoning bylaw, 1 per 250 square feet of floor area. So with 1,460, that rounds out to be 6 spaces that are required. Interestingly, the medical office is acknowledged and recognized under that parking calculation as being a less intense use than regular office space, which requires one per 200 square feet of floor area, which is an interesting point that medical office is considered as being, as you know, is called out specially for separate treatment and is regarded as being less intensive in terms of the requirement for parking spaces.
Great, thank you, Arthur.
Thank you.
Any more board questions before we go to the public? Okay. The floor is yours. Please state your name.
Yeah, I'm Scott Wilson, the chair of the NASHA board. Is Sarah Alder, is she on?
Yeah.
So she was going to go first.
Okay.
Sarah, please unmute.
Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Sarah Alger, I do represent the Noshop Homeowners Association. And I just want to say, I want to start by saying, certainly appreciate Dr. Monto and everything he's done for the community. And this opposition is certainly not personal to him. And I want to be sure that we're very clear on that. We did have an opportunity, Scott Wilson, who's the president of the HOA, and I, maybe one or two other people, had an opportunity to meet with Mr. Reed and Dr. Monto on Friday. I think we had a very productive call. We gained a lot of information, but unfortunately, at the end of the call, we just couldn't come up with any sort of conditions that would mitigate the impacts that this use is going to have on the Noshop neighborhood. And part of the reason for that is that Goldfinch Drive, which is the main thoroughfare there in Noshop, is a one-way road. And many of the roads in Noshop are one-way roads. So what's going to happen for this use is it's not as if people going to this office will be able to turn directly off Old South Road and into this parking lot. They're going to have to go to the next entrance, the next Goldfinch entrance, enter the subdivision, and then drive around through the residential neighborhood, either down Bluebird or all the way around on Goldfinch, to get to this particular use. And the streets in Noshop are very narrow. The sidewalks are narrow. Often you'll see people walking in the street, children playing in the street, people walking baby carriages in the street. It's just not compatible with an additional, I don't know, at least 50 additional car trips. I'd love to see it. I'd love to see a traffic study done to really assess what the impact of this office is going to be. The prior uses were very different in their character and intensity. The hospital use was kind of a back office use. So people were going in the morning, going into the office, doing their work and coming out at the end of the day. And there wasn't the turnover that you're going to have with an office where people are coming and going to and from appointments. I also, a couple of other things I want to point out that are really problematic about this. If you look carefully at the parking plan that they've provided, you'll see that the parking spaces that are proposed slop over an easement area. That just doesn't work. They're not allowed to park over this easement area. So the parking spaces themselves, you'll see the back couple of feet are actually into what's shown as access easement B. When cars are parked, and some of the spaces you can't even get to, 12, 13, and 14, if people are parked in spaces 7 through 11. But if people are parked in those spaces, then the people using the access easement to get into the garage units on adjacent 97 Goldfinch aren't going to be able to make the turn. And we've already had a car go in there and try to do it, and it's just too tight because you're cutting into the required aisle width that's necessary to make the turn, particularly for Mr. Crow, who has the end unit. And I don't know whether he's here to speak or not, but I know he did write a letter in. The other thing is that I understand that Dr. Monto's use is only for a portion of the building. So we don't have any sense of what other uses are going to be in the building and what the overall impact. If this was the sole use of this building, then we would at least be able to assess the overall impact. But without knowing how the rest of the building is going to be used, now I understand it's used primarily by the owner, but there are other office spaces there that could be rented out. And, you know, I think that should be addressed as part of this application. I felt like the application was kind of scanty on detail, and Mr. Reed has done a good job filling that in with the hours of operation. I think Saturday is probably a bridge too far. I don't even really want to get into start talking about conditions, because I don't want to encourage you to be approving this, because honestly, I just don't think that, given the neighborhood and given the type of use that's proposed and given the layout of this particular property, that this is going to be at all appropriate. And I'm very sorry to have to say that, but I think, as hard as it is or to find office space, I think this use should be looking somewhere else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Scott Wilson from Naushop. That was great, Sarah. We don't want it. And we understand we may be stuck with it if you grant the special permit, but we're here to try and talk you out of it. The applicant sort of glided over the fact that there is an easement issue. That property shares space with 97, and there's one entrance into the area for both of them. And that's on 97's property. So 99 people can't get in without driving on 97 property, thus the easement. The easement also allows people on 97, where there are garages, to swing their car around and to be able to park in their garage by going over on 99's property. And so those easements have worked well. They've been there for years. But if you park a car in certain spots in front of 99, they block the easement on 97. That's a problem. Mr. Crow, who owns the farthest garage west, is going to come up in a minute and tell you about his unique situation. We're concerned about the impact of 20 more cars on Old South Road. Nobody's even thinking about that, but you know, you go through strategic plans and master plans. Where's the Old South Road plan? Our sidewalks are very narrow and beset with curb cuts for driveways. It forces anything with wheels into the street: strollers, bikes, wagons, you name it. Dog walkers, a lot of dog walkers in the street. It's a cozy, quiet neighborhood, 15-mile-an-hour speed limit, speed bumps everywhere to try and slow things down. We're very nervous about additional traffic. Don't forget, this is a commercial operation you're seeking to approve that's in a completely residential area. And to quote back the requirement for the permit, there seems to be a harmonization issue here. It doesn't work. Those roads are private in Naushop, and we pay for them. We maintain them. We control them. This is going to add to our cost, and it quite simply is very frustrating. Parking, we are saturated on the streets with parking. I know the applicant has provided a plan for parking on the property, but even still, that's going to be subject to solving the easement issue. This is about safety, congestion, and incremental costs on us. To quote one of the well, I did that. The people of Naushop are almost universal in their opposition to this clinic. We want to be clear that this is nothing personal. Many residents have spoken of their connection to and admiration for Dr. Monto. By most accounts, he's a great orthopedic surgeon. But that does not affect their views in opposition to this clinic, which may have expressed to you in their letters to you, and which they also hope to express to you in person tonight. Please deny the application. Thank you.
Thank you. Board member comments before the next?
And Mr. Chair, just to give you a heads up, you have two people online waiting to comment, and also one of the applicant's agents is also looking to comment.
Okay. Who's looking to comment? Arthur?
No, he has another attorney, Adam Brodsky.
Okay. I'm going to let Mr. Bradsky go, and then I'll come back to you, and then we'll alternate between online and offline. I mean, in the room. So, Mr. Bradsky?
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you, members of the board and members of the HOA and everyone for coming out to, to express your opinions, and we appreciate it. My name is Adam Brodsky. I am attorney for Elkham Realty, the owner of the property. I also, before I started with my comments, I just wanted to reiterate that we too are a member of the Homeowners Association and pay, dues to the Homeowners Association and care about the community and own the property and maintain the property and pay taxes on the property. And, and we want to be good neighbors. And so I think the tenor of the whole conversation here is that we are receptive and open-minded to the concerns of our neighbors and the concerns of Dr. Monto. And we plan on owning this property for many, many, many years to come. And within that auspices, we want to work on a compromise that works for everybody. And we understand people live there, and we're receptive to that, to their needs and to their concerns. So I just wanted to put that out there. One other thing that I wanted to mention, and not in a threatening way, but just that we want to rent the property, and it's a commercial endeavor that obviously is zone commercial adjacent to a residential neighborhood. So that's one of the nuances here, and that's obviously one of the interesting dynamics. But that, if the lease does not proceed with Dr. Monto, in fact, we as one of the board members or someone had alluded to, commercial space is very tight in Nantucket. And, we've been entertaining as of late, to put it, to rent it. And so if the transaction with Dr. Monto for some reason does not proceed, we've had a number of office inquiries to lease the space. And if that in fact proceeds with the office uses, then there will be no need for a special permit, and we will not have to come before the planning board, as I understand it. And the community will not have any input in the discussion. So, and that might be the path that's taken, and that's within our rights, and that's within our auspices, and that might be something, a route that we pursue if this transaction does not proceed. So I'm not saying in a threatening way, I'm just saying it in the fact that we have a commercial endeavor here, and we want to rent our property. And so within that framework, however, we want to be good neighbors. We understand the Dr. Monto's reputation in the community, and we want to be supportive of his practice. And so we are willing to, and we are enthusiastic and receptive and understanding, and want to have a conversation with the chair of the Homeowners Association, and have a conversation with our adjoining neighbors over at 97, I should say, Goldfinch, to come up with a compromise that makes our property and this use as least impactful or have as little impact as is possible, so that we can all cohabitate together in the Naushop community, and we can do what we need to do to be a taxpayer and a homeowner, member of the Homeowners Association, all at the same time while supporting Dr. Monto's practice so that he can be successful and a practitioner within the community.
Great, thank you.
Sure. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Harvey Friedman, and we're owners in Naushop. And the purpose here is a planning board / zoning, and you have to take a couple of things into consideration. Everything Dr. Monto has said is, I'm sure, true and honest, but you're deciding today whether a medical facility is appropriate for this neighborhood. So that means if Dr. Monto decides that he doesn't want to practice anymore, someone else can come in, hire a physician's assistant, see 6 patients an hour, expand to other office space within the area, people lining up on the one-way street to get in. So once you designate this as acceptable for a medical office, you no longer have any control whatsoever. Hours, oh, I have to see someone, they're coming in after the kid comes home from school, so it's going to be closer to 6 o'clock. Saturday hours, maybe we want to expand that also. So again, this is nothing personal, but you have to make a decision today whether a medical clinic is appropriate in this neighborhood. Once you do, you have absolutely no control. And I'm speaking as a retired physician. Thank you.
Thank you. I would push back gently on that. If we put in restrictions that say they can only have so many cars a day or visits a day, they will have to.
I've been through that,
They will
and
have to
it
come
doesn't
back,
work.
but they will have to come back and see us. So it's
Yeah,
not
but
just
then you've
slide
already
in.
okayed it, and it's done. It's a done deal. And I've been through planning boards for medical offices, and once it's done, that's it.
The question I have, though, is, I mean, you guys already decided that it was okay to have, I'm not saying I'm supporting this, I'm just saying I'm looking at your deed restriction that runs with the land, and it says you cannot have a hospital, you can't have a pharmacy, a healthcare facility other than a medical office that's not providing vet patient care. So at some point, when you all negotiated this and there was a lawsuit, you decided a medical office was okay. So I'm just wondering if there's something about this particular format of medical office that is so much worse than what you envisioned when you thought that a medical office was acceptable. For whoever, I mean, maybe the president of the association.
That's one of how many covenants that are in that list. And you see a whole lot of restrictions on no retail, all that sort of thing. The concern here is the volume of traffic, the volume of patients, the volume of cars on the streets. That's why we're contesting this.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to someone online and I'll come back to you.
Yes, please.
We have Audra Hicks.
Audra, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much for listening to me. I want to thank Dr. Monto as a patient of Dr. Monto who's taken care of me in the past and with surgeries. Very much respect. And so this is by no means anything personal. But I respectfully urge the planning board to deny this request for a special permit at 90 and 99 Goldfinch. I am a year-round resident on 9 Bluebird. And as was mentioned earlier, we do have an incredible amount of volume in our neighborhood, just with people that are living there year-round, and especially during the summer that comes. When I bought in Noshop, I had a vision of my grandkids being able to play on the streets and to ride our bikes around the neighborhood safely around here. This unfortunately just increases that volume of coming through, and it impacts the safety, and it translates this neighborhood from being a residential community where we do, like I said, maintain our streets. I understand that the gentleman that says, yes, you are paying as well, but the majority of the community is against this, that maintains our streets. We do, when there's traffic here, even with those that live here and those that come to visit, if you're unfamiliar with the neighborhood, people drive down our streets, the wrong way and don't come through. We're just opening this up for more accidents again. And so, as I mentioned, drivers unfamiliar, it's just spelling a recipe for disasters, and it's placing people at risk, and it's avoided with this volume. So I just urge you to please say no. You would, unless you would like this in your neighborhood as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. My name is James Crow. I live at 76 Goldfinch. I own the garage at 97 Unit 3. Back in 2012, we actually bought 3 of the units from the bank that owned the property at the time. We actually bought 99 as well, or had it under agreement, and backed out because of the restrictions on parking. Parking was definitely a problem. And it was a problem with our lawyers. We have a lawyer in Boston that handles this stuff for us, and he cautioned us that due to the restrictions on the property itself and the parking, it might become a problem later on down the line. So we backed out of the purchase of 99, but we bought the other 3 units, sold 2 of the garages, or a garage and an apartment, and kept the garage for myself. If you look at the drawing that the applicant has filed, they show 2, almost 3 spaces that encroach into the space that I'm allowed to have. That's an easement that's given to me. It was filed in 2012 with the town. It's on record. It's my space. They don't have 14 spaces currently, if you go by the drawing that was submitted to the town back in 2012, that's on record. They have 11 spaces, which doesn't meet the requirement. And
They're required to have 6, right? They're only required to have 6.
well, they're showing 14
Yeah,
though.
that's true.
Right. Well, if they, I mean, I'm not going to get into zoning and the spaces and the parking spaces. The 6 spaces is one thing. I mean, I just think that the added traffic, obviously, you've heard about the added traffic and the amount of people going in and out of the property. That's going to be a problem. That's a problem for a lot of people. I mean, Old South Road is so congested now. You could drive on 93 and be less congested at 5 o'clock. It really is. It's ridiculously overcrowded. But the 14 spaces that are shown are not shown properly. They should not be there. They're on my space. And by the way, I was a patient of Dr. Monto's. I love Dr. Monto, and I'm very sorry that this isn't going to work. But I think this is the wrong space. And I would love to have him stay on island because I think he's a fantastic doctor. Thank you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Someone online?
Yeah, Eric Peterson.
All right. Welcome, Mr. Peterson.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you. Yes.
Great. So I am one of the owners at 97 Goldfinch Drive, one of the direct abutters to 99 Goldfinch. I've owned the property since 2017, use it as a vacation home for my family, my wife and 2 young daughters. The other condo that's on 97 Goldfinch is also a residential unit that's owned by a year-round resident. And we are definitely strongly opposed to this use for 99 Goldfinch. I think Scott and Jimmy have described some of the specific concerns. As Scott mentioned, the current easement allows 99 and 97 to share this common driveway and parking area, but all of the traffic that would come to this clinic would come directly onto the 97 Goldfinch lot. That's just how it's set up today. So we haven't had a problem parking in the past. We have 2 parking spots on our side. If the clinic came through as proposed and there's 20 patients a day, there would just be a significant increase in traffic into that area that we share, which in my view is totally against what the easement was intended for originally. Specifically, we have a small yard that's directly in front of our unit. My 2 daughters play outside there, a good chunk of the day, when we're on the island. I don't have any concern about them, coming and going from the car to the yard back and forth. If there was this constant flow of traffic in and out of the driveway, I just be constantly worried that they might step out into traffic. The noise is another issue. That right now it's a stone and gravel surface, and it's very loud every time a car comes and goes. We can hear anytime a car enters the area, we can hear the crunching of the gravel from inside our house. If it happens a few times a day, that's fine. If it's a constant stream of traffic, that's incredibly disruptive to the noise levels in our house. And as others have mentioned, it's a very steep entryway. Practically only one car can come and go at a time. It frequently gets backed up. Just coming and going, into our driveway would be very much more challenging if this were to go through. And again, we only have 2 spots on our side. If there were the number of cars proposed, it seems very likely that cars would end up parking in our spots or parking out onto the streets of Nashop. Again, just don't think it's fair that, that our property would be subjected to all of this increase in traffic. And I'd also note that, there is this shared entryway. There's also a curb that's cut on the 99 Goldfinch plot. It's just not currently being utilized. It feeds into a yard and a fence. But, if something like this were to go through, which again, I'm very much against, I would suggest that they find a way to use that curb cut and create a separate dedicated parking section that's separate from the 97 Goldfinch lot. Yeah, those are my concerns and why I'm very much against this proposal.
Great, thank you. Campbell?
I just have,
Your name, Campbell.
oh, Campbell Sutton, sorry. So I'm just going to bring up a couple of things because I don't live in this area, but I wanted to clarify a special permit through a question to you or through you to staff. A special permit doesn't run with the building, does it, in a rental? It runs with the occupants? Or if this...
Building.
The special permit runs with the land, but you can condition it to go with a specific business.
Okay, so you could condition it so it doesn't just create what this other fellow was quite concerned about. And the other thing I just wanted to bring up that I'm aware of, because I live on Appleton Road, and Dr. Sanford, which is a dental office, that was a big neighborhood thing when it went through, but I will say that it did come about in with restrictions that are appropriate for a very busy street, and you would hardly know that his office is doing, business there. He's a dental surgeon.
Campbell, do you remember what those restrictions were? I know he.
It was numbers of patients and like you couldn't have backup waiting in the waiting room, right? And so there was given, I think, 15 to 20 minutes between patients to ensure that there was only one car in the parking lot. And that gave time in case something went over where everyone, the person could clear out. And so you wouldn't have so much overlap. And the other one I wanted to bring up was, I'm going to get the name of the street wrong, I think, but it's Pine. I don't think it's Pine Tree, but it's Pine where Act Dental is.
Pine Crest. Is that Pine Crest where there? But Marianne Drive, but
Yeah.
right next door, yeah.
Okay, it's in there.
Yep.
Anyway, that was before the board not so long ago, and I don't know, like I would check maybe if there have been complaints, but they were also restricted to number of patients and really low impact parking through, how many people you could see. But I'm just putting that out there because it's not, it is possible through a special permit to create these kinds of restrictions to sort of slow down the onslaught. So I don't know if it's anything that Mr. Monto's interested in. The other thing I would say is from the board's opening statement, I didn't get the impression that public hearing was closing tonight.
I don't
So-
think this issue.
So I
isn't
just
gonna
want to
close
assure
tonight.
people that
this
it's,
public
you know.
hearing will remain open as long as this application
Right,
remains open.
right.
Yes.
So I just wanted to reassure people
Yeah.
that it's
Thank
not
you.
over.
Thank you, Campbell.
Thank you.
Hold on one sec. Yes. Do I have someone
We
on?
have one person online. Who do you want to go to?
I'm alternating, so I'll be right back to you. Perfect.
We have Nicole Ridge.
All right, welcome, Nicole.
Hello there. Thank you everyone for taking the time. And I am Nicole Ridge. I own at 97 Goldfinch. I'm the other condo owner. I live there year round. And I echo what everyone is saying. This is not personal for Dr. Monto. It's concerned for our neighborhood and for the impact of our quality life specifically. What I'm concerned about, in addition to all the other concerns, but for us personally at 97 Goldfinch, is that it is a stone gravel driveway. There's no way to designate signs or space. I mean, there's signs in the property, but there's no way to designate the parking area. And we all know sometimes we're in a hurry to get somewhere. Maybe we don't park perfectly. And that's a concern for me because the spillover, I'm wondering how we can safeguard that the two spots that are allocated to 97 will not be in use. I'm a teacher on the island and I will come home while this clinic will still be in use each day. And it would be a really frustrating thing to find my spot taken. And so that's one of my other concerns about this property. Thank you for your time. And of course, along with everyone else, I oppose it.
Hello, my name is Dick Massimilian, 8 Bluebird Lane. I have one concern that has not been mentioned. The exit of Goldfinch, when you exit, you are exiting, you'll notice there are 2 speed bumps, not 1, but 2. And the reason is that the bike paths that approach from both directions are downhill. And so those of us that live there know that it's a very dangerous exit from that exit. And many a time I have gone to exit, looked to the left, looked to the right, and then started to go, only to find somebody's coming down from the left, usually on a motorized scooter, at a very high rate of speed, or sometimes on a bicycle, obviously not as fast. And I go to pull out and somebody's coming at me and I have to stop. Now it's taken me, I've lived there 12 years and it's taken me a while, to learn about that. Lately, it's gotten a little bit more, it seems that there's more motorized scooters than ever these days. I don't know if it's my imagination or there just are. But I think that adding a volume of traffic using that exit by people unfamiliar with that particular bike path, like I said, it's downhill both ways, is probably gonna accelerate someday something's gonna happen. And I think a lot of people unfamiliar with that exit, somebody's gonna get hurt. And that's my concern about it. Thank you.
You have one hand up online and Mr. Reed has his hand raised. We have one member of the public online. Take him, Gary Henniker.
Can you hear me? Okay. I live at 3 Goldfinch, which is on the opposite end, the entry of Goldfinch. And every single car that you will be going to this practice will pass by the front of our house. I don't want to repeat a lot of the concerns that everyone else had. I'm definitely opposed to this. And I think there's a lot of minimization going on about the number of the amount of traffic that this place is going to generate. 15 to 20 visitors is a lot of traffic. This medical practice is going to be open 5.5 days a week. It does not seem like the doctor's slowing down. He's still working 5.5 days a week. I think that there's more suitable use for that property. Adam alluded to that without threatening anybody, that he could rent it to someone else, and I encourage him to do so. That's all I have to add at this point.
I'm going to go to Mr. Reed real quick. Arthur? Floor is yours, Arthur. Arthur, the floor is yours.
Appears to be frozen.
We'll come back.
There have in fact been at least 2 car versus bike incidents at that exit. Oddly enough, they were in the off-season, but it's what led to us putting in additional speed bumps there, because the prior speaker was absolutely right. They're moving so fast, they're on you before you know it. We have mirrors up that we put up and maintain to try and help alleviate that situation, but it's a very dangerous intersection. To respond to a point that Mr. Lowell made earlier, this is not mission creep. This is not, it had this use and then it had this use and now it's this use, and incrementally it's a little bit worse, but what's the difference? This is different. The prior uses did not require a special permit, and here one is required. That's the ordinance. That ordinance says you can issue the permit if you find that things are in harmony. And I frankly don't think that there's anything harmonious about a practice that sees 20 patients a day, every day, is harmonious with the kind of neighborhood that we have. Thank you.
Arthur, back with us?
His hands are moving. Arthur, can you hear us?
Yes.
Oh, there we are. The floor is yours, Arthur.
Is your mic not on, Dave?
Arthur, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to comment on what the gentleman mentioned a while ago about basically once the special permit would be issued for the medical clinic, that the cat would be out of the bag, so to speak, and then Campbell Sutton's comments on it. A special permit can be made specific to an applicant. Under zoning, a variance cannot, a special permit can. And we would be perfectly agreeable to there being a special permit that would be specific to Dr. Monto's practice, as described in this application, to his entity, and that any future entity seeking to operate a medical office or clinic would have to apply for a new special permit in connection with that. Again, the board has that power, and that's something that we would not only agree to, we would encourage you to do as part of an application of this, approval of this application. Thanks.
Thank you, Arthur.
Hi there,
Hi.
Jamie Golden in Nashop. So I have a variety of reasons why I too am nervous for this project. I have 4 young kids. I have a double stroller. I'm always pushing it on the street because, as everybody has mentioned, it is nearly impossible to stay on a sidewalk because of the curb cuts. Some are really steep, 97, 99 being one of them. So much so that, that's the second to last driveway as you exit. And so it's basically the driveway, cars almost always parked on the left, a second driveway, and 2 immediate speed bumps. So whether it's myself and my husband and our kids on our bikes, we have a 1, a 3, a 9, and an 11-year-old, or it's, one of us pushing a stroller, whatever it is already very cumbersome and precarious getting out of the exit. Much like was mentioned, speaking about bikers coming from both angles, I can't tell you how many times, even on our bikes, I'm like, guys, watch out. Whether it's the stroller, whatever it is, it's already a very challenging corner. And not to add even more fuel, but it's a one-way street. I've seen people try to come in it, and going across Old South there, where then there's bikes and there's strollers and there's cars, and people not knowing that that is a one-way street in, and all of a sudden there's a car coming the wrong direction, I can't even imagine what would happen. I literally the other day was coming back into Noshop, so the second exit or second entrance, and somebody was exiting it as I was trying to turn in. And I was like, thank God I know to stop and make sure, you know, everybody's very clear, but somebody was leaving the entrance. If we have an influx of cars that, or people coming in that don't know that that's a one-way street, it's hard to see. It's just asking for a poor setup and a lot of traffic disasters. Do you have a question?
I do.
Yes.
Because you're the second person that said people have to be familiar with your neighborhood. Do you have any visitors come to Noshop that don't know all this stuff?
I mean, I don't have
it
any
used to
driving
be
visitors.
two-way coming, where it's one way out. Wasn't long ago that was two-way, which was like the worst thing on the face of the earth.
I will say that, and if anybody is to come, yeah, I don't know how it could be. I mean, I've only lived there for, I think this is my 5th summer.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine that. I will tell you that with the density and how hard it is to get around things now.
For a long
Please.
time.
Yeah, come to the mic if you want to
Yeah,
talk,
it was
please.
two-way on that other,
don't-
which
And
was nuts. I'm just
Yeah, I
saying
mean,
it
it's
was.
not now, and it shouldn't be. Whether it was or not, I don't know. There's a reason it's
No.
not, right? There's a reason that's
But-
been changed.
So that neighborhood is built out.
Yeah, oh, completely.
I don't mean to interrupt. I'm
No,
just
no,
like,
please.
gotta say something, because this is gonna just be the same conversation. That's okay. You have every right to say whatever you feel like saying. This neighborhood is built out except for maybe a couple of lots,
Yeah, I
okay?
believe there are 2 or 3.
And when it was two-way the other way, it was dangerous people slamming on their brakes, coming down Old South Road and that decline there. And the gentleman mentioned the bike path. Bike path was not there when Noshop started, okay? And thank God it is. I'm just saying, there is a little problem there, but that doesn't mean that 20 more cars a day is gonna make that worse. It's just the way that's been.
Can you
Hey,
please, if you'd like to speak,
just get
come
up
to
and
the mic.
speak.
Hey, please. Okay?
So my point is that the existing conditions there have changed a lot, and they're way better than they used to be. And it's much safer than it used to be. Okay, when you come in one way, we have the pullover now.
100%.
That is great, and a lot of people are against that.
But if people
That
are going
little
to be
thing.
coming,
I'm just making a point. I'm just saying, something's gonna happen in this building, okay? And my request to staff is gonna be, what can happen by right in this CN zone building that no one's ever thought about till today? Okay, till this new application, where it's been somewhat light, super light commercial for a while with the hospital and whatever else was there, because I don't know what else is there. The easement stuff, you need to find out about how long those parking spaces technically are. Because, there's never was an issue in here, so this is just sort of an existing condition. It's not all laid out perfectly. And when something new comes in, this is what happens. Well, not to this level usually, but there's always gonna be questions, right? Like we just had at Community Drive with essentially the same intensity, but there was people who were upset with it. Yet, that's really not gonna be any different than it was. But we have to look at things from what can happen, okay? You might not like what could happen without a special permit worse than this.
sure.
And what Arthur said is true. A special permit has a lot of teeth, okay? Like, it's not like you just get to do whatever you want. Like, you have conditions, public hearings can be opened, you can
I've had to
file
apply for one
complaints.
myself, so I completely understand.
It's good, you
And
know what I
I'm-
mean? It's a good thing to have.
But I will stick to the ground that exit is already such a mess that adding it where I'm really bad with distance, but it's not a far distance to that exit from that driveway. And
Right.
if you have that already there, and then you have these cars that possibly are coming in from that exit, I'm saying if cars turn by mistake
Yeah,
down this
but-
street that was, to your point, formerly a 2-way street,
I think what Nat's trying to explain, or to get all of you to understand, is that if we denied this application, I'm not saying we're going to, who knows? and the owner puts in a by right business in there, they could have a higher level of traffic. You have no ability to regulate that in any way.
Right.
But if you guys will sit through this process and work in good faith with the applicant, you will have the opportunity to get some meaningful regulations to address some of these problems. But if you don't, and he puts a by right business in there that has a much higher amount of come and go and traffic, we can't help you. Nobody can help you. It's a by right business. So I just think that, and I 100% appreciate everything you all are saying. I hear you loud and clear. Nobody wants more traffic in their neighborhood. Nobody, everyone is concerned about the safety of their kids, their grandkids, themselves. You know, with that said, you guys did purchase land right next to commercial use. So it makes, we see it a lot in here. We see it in town when people open restaurants that border on residential neighborhoods. None of this is new to us. And we 100% understand what you're saying, but I think that you're in a better place working through this with us at a special permit than you would be going out alone and letting the owner of that property put something in there by right, which, yeah, there's no guarantee. Maybe it's nothing, but it could be something that could cause more traffic without us being able to address it. So
I'll
that's
walk
kind of
away.
where we're sitting.
I'll walk away with this, but my
Yeah.
one thought is I'm not against the use. It is strictly the traffic
Mm-hmm.
and where their access point is. If their access point was on Old South and didn't go through our streets,
Yeah.
didn't go through our neighborhood, I mean, it might still be more cumbersome, but at least it would not cause so much tense.
No, and I agree,
intensity
but
coming
it's
out of our
not
exit.
not an option. And then, I mean, there's a safety concern of another curb cut. So,
Right.
yeah, it's confusing, is all we're saying. Thank you.
You do a site visit here.
Yes,
I
I
haven't
agree.
looked at it like this before.
No one online? Okay. Were you up first?
I'll be very quick.
Okay.
I was gonna answer your question. Kendall Brook, 70 Goldfinch. I wasn't planning on talking. I don't want to belabor
Yeah.
anything more, keep everyone's time and respectful of the process. I would tell you that every guest I have that comes to Goldfinch, I admonish them of coming and going into Goldfinch and how you drive around Goldfinch. I say it's families, it's kids, it's elderly, but especially that exit. I'm worried about it. I'm definitely worried about it. I am totally respectful of, and by the way, another use, we're saying, hey, is it better with the devil you know than one we don't? An office use where someone comes in the morning, maybe they go grab their lunch, they come get their work done and leave, as opposed to, you know, people are coming and going all the time. We've all been late for doctor's appointments. What's the first thing you do? You drive fast to get there. What's the first thing you do when you stay too long in a doctor's office? You're late for something else, you're leaving fast. I'm worried about that exit. So I don't want to belabor it. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. I wasn't planning on it, but just wanted to
And-
answer your question. It's a tough, I know it so well coming out of there, but I'm inching my way
Yeah.
as I exit. And I would worry about that. I really am.
Look to the left
And
last.
part of any
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
decision that could
Yeah.
come from here could involve us saying to Dr.
Yeah.
Monto that you need to have an informational sheet
It's a good
that
idea.
is sent out to every single client you have, telling them how to come in and how to leave and what the concerns of the neighbors are.
Yeah,
So-
I was curious about the texting. It was saying, are we texting people who are coming in? So now they're texting and driving that they can't come in, but anyway, I appreciate the time.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name's John Mitten. I'm a resident of Nasha. And first of all, I would like to say that I appreciate the board's recommendation that we talk to Dr. Monto and hopefully we can work it out. But I also want to express my concern about the parking situation there. I currently think that our neighborhood does have a parking problem right now. I was talking to a neighbor last week and about this issue, and that's the first time I heard of it, so I decided to take a little walk around the neighborhood and count the cars that were on the street. And I counted 116 cars in the neighborhood, 50 on Goldfinch and 19 on Bluebird. So I think there's currently a problem, and I just don't want I'm opposed to this special permit because I'm concerned that it's going to exasperate the parking problem. It's just going to make it worse. And so that's all I'd like to say. Thank you.
And that's another thing that can be conditioned in the special permit, that all parking must be contained on his lot. Yes, sir.
To remind you that the roads are private in Noshop. We take that, they're our responsibility. We don't have the ability to call the police. We don't have the ability to tow anybody. These are problems. And I just wanted to bring that to your attention. Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody online?
No.
Board members? Tough one. No, nothing's happening tonight. No. I mean, I would continue to urge some productive dialogue. I mean, if we start moving towards approval, I would suggest that there would be limits on how many clients you could see an hour, that there would be parking considerations. All parking must occur in his 6 spaces and nothing else. And I'm just bouncing these around, but these are the kind of things that we would be looking at. And these are the kind of things that you guys have a right to ask him for in your discussions with him. And if that's not productive, we can mandate them in a decision if we get that far. So,
I had some
Yes,
questions.
please.
Can I ask that? So I just wanted to clarify with our staff, on page 2 of the PDF of this application, it says the full description of the proposal is on file with Plus. That's what we have, right? Is there anything more that we don't have? No. Okay. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't some other information. Thank you. And then also, could the staff, just for the benefit of the board, the newer people on the board and the people in the room, what in this Commonwealth of Massachusetts, what are the considerations a board must take into account before issuing a special permit? I mean, this is not a by right use. So we have to decide based on established criteria. And I think this is what's in front of us. So we can't decide, well, this is better than something that might come up, because that's a hypothetical, right? We have to be up or down on this. What are the criteria that we must consider before issuing a special permit?
Well, for one thing, some special permits in the zoning bylaw have very specific findings that you have to make.
But I mean, for this one.
For this one, it does not. The only finding is generic to all special permits, that the special permit granting authority shall issue special permits for structures and uses which are in harmony with the general purpose and intent of this chapter, subject to the provisions of such chapter. Such permits may impose conditions, safeguards, and limitations intended to ensure that the use or the structure is in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the chapter. So you can certainly take into consideration, traffic and parking and all of the things that would, possibly negatively impact the surrounding neighborhood.
And could you just summarize, since we don't all have like an encyclopedic knowledge of the bylaw or have it in front of us the way you do, Leslie, what is, in harmony with the spirit of the bylaw? What does that mean?
It's very subjective.
Okay.
Yeah.
So help us a little bit, like.
But it's subjective
is
to
it-
that bylaw, that zoning district, CN, and so that wouldn't necessarily apply to their zoning, R5.
I see. So we have to consider whether or not it's harmonious with CN or harmonious with Noshop's residential zoning.
Definitely with CN, but also, again, you can take into consideration the impacts of the special permit, because that's sort of the point of allowing a special permit, is to put the neighbors on notice. It's free to have a discussion. I mean, for uses that are allowed by right, none of that is considered.
But so are we supposed to, so the things that Can we comment a little bit about what we've heard at this point, Mr. Chair? Okay, so regarding the parking, I don't think it's right to park a car in the easement. So, I don't think we can approve a plan that calls for a requirement that the cars are stationed in the easement. And this plan shows 20-foot long spots with like the back 25% of them in the easement. So they don't have to have that many spots. They have to have 6. They probably want at least 7, and it probably needs to be angle parking delineated. So that's my view on the parking. There's a parking problem on the lot that needs to be solved with a plan that gets the cars out of the easement, in my opinion. But then, what we're hearing from the neighbors is that they really are like at the breaking point as far as traffic before this even happened. So, I don't think we would be having this kind of conversation maybe 10 years ago if this special permit came before the board, and that there are things happening in the neighborhood. I know we're going to talk more about short-term rentals, and it's a big topic on the island, obviously, that we will think about what to do about. However, there is a letter from Mr. Wilson that says, a third of Naushop is having short-term rentals. So maybe the HOA should talk about not just the short-term rentals, but just the parking, the streets. And that kind of lets me pivot to, I don't think we're going to make any decisions tonight, but there are a lot of communities that actually like to have commercial uses because it gives them more financial resources to draw on for the benefit of their communities. And doctors' offices are one that a lot of communities find to be acceptable. So assuming that they can solve the parking problem, there is a possibility to negotiate with this, with really the landlord. Can they put more money into making the streets safer? Can they pay a larger share of the HOA fee? I'm just saying that you are going to continue to have this conversation, and we will have to study whether or not the special use is really meriting a special permit, whether the use is meriting a special permit. But it's also possible that you might have some negotiations with the landlord, to work out some of the things that are most troublesome. I just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I have a couple of
State your name, please.
This is Paula Mitten. I have a couple of comments. From what I've read, well, first of all, when Dr. Monto, he's going to have him, his secretary, someone else, and there were like 4 people just in their office at least. And then there's the patients. And then some patients also bring other people with them. And some visits last longer than others, so more people will be coming at the same time. So they'll need more spaces. Really is no spaces in Naushop for them to take. If they do, they're going to take someone's space in front of their house if they can, which will cause a lot more problems. It is a one-way, obviously, we said, and it's only probably about 4 feet, not even, to the bike path, right out of his driveway. So people and that's we only have one exit of the whole 200 houses, the residences there, one exit. So people in our neighborhood want to leave the exit, but then there's people who are going to want to keep coming out of their thing and there's no room really if you're driving up. The bike path is very, very dangerous. We have the mirrors and stuff, but again, with those fast bikes and even regular bikes, because I know several people have gotten hit by bikes, personally, I know. And it's a very dangerous intersection there. And if you can add more people coming out, it's dangerous. The other thing is with them driving through the neighborhood, because they don't know the way. I mean, even if you put out a brochure, I don't know how many people are going to read a brochure of how to enter in. If they look on the map and they see it's on Goldfinch, and Goldfinch is right there, they'll go in the exit. And there could be problems with that. Also, we don't have policing in terms of, again, and I'm just repeating summing up what I've heard, but we don't have police it. We don't, we can't, if somebody's parked in someone's space or in their driveway, sometimes I've even had people park in my driveway, and I'm like, what, because there's no room. But these people, they might just park wherever they want and encumber other people's spaces. As far as the timing, they were saying the hours are like to 4:30 or whatever, but then when I had read in their petition, they said, or on emergency, or if somebody needed a special time, they would extend the hours. That was what I had read. So it's not just 9 to 5 and it's not 12 to 1. It could be later. They could have nighttime appointments. They could have, so there's that. Also, again, this K group, LCAM group, they are not part of NASHAP. They don't pay homeowners association fees. They don't pay condo
They
fees.
testified that they did.
They don't. They are not part of us. They are separate.
Their
And they're
attorney
using our
testified that
streets.
they did pay.
They are?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm sure they weren't. But they don't supposedly pay our fees. Okay, that's news to me, because what I had read, it wasn't. Sorry about that. But I guess that's my concern about them going through the neighborhood, not knowing the streets that are one way. Because we even have that with some visitors that do that they're renting, and they'll go down the wrong way. They'll come in the wrong way. But if you're going to have 20 new people every day coming, there's going to be some people making mistakes going down the wrong way. There's going to be accidents. There are a lot of children on the streets. They like to play ball and stuff. Strollers on the street, bikes on the street, and different cars of people who don't know the rules. And I don't know how you can negotiate that with. And I had heard that Mr. Wilson and someone else had just had a meeting with Dr. Monta and his lawyer already. So that's already started already. So I don't know, having another conversation is going to change anything. We can't change the parking spots because people own those spots. They own those garages. There's not going to be a lot of room there. Who's going to prevent those people from taking their spots? So it seems like it's just not worth it. That's my opinion.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody online? So what pleasure of the board? I personally would like to see a new parking mock-up to see if you can get six spots in there without intruding into the access easement. Anybody else want anything else?
I'm wondering, we heard about the wrong way. Yeah, so we've heard a lot about people coming in the wrong way. So presumably that's already an issue for not just people that are going to a clinic, that's people that rent short-term rentals and all sorts. So I haven't been and looked at it, Mr. Chair, but perhaps some kind of signage or some other to make this even more, visible that this is not the way you go up. Maybe something like that. And, I don't want to repeat everything and a lot of what Hillary said, but, the medical clinic use was discussed and it was agreed that that would be one, subject to a special permit. And the special permit process can work in your favor if you really think it through about what it is you really want, because someone's going to come into this building, and as we've said a lot of times, this way you have some control. For a lot of other uses, you do not. So I would just encourage what you said in the very beginning, Mr. Chair, that I don't think the compromise process has gone on long enough. To the previous lady's comment about, well, there's nothing else to say. I think there probably is. If you Dr. Monto is a lot of us know him. He's a man of integrity, and I am sure he wants to do the right thing for you as well as his own business. So I wouldn't give up on the compromising a set of agreements that let him bring this service to the community and to make sure you guys are not impacted. I would keep talking. That's my only advice. Keep talking.
I just have one thing to say about the parking, again, not to beat a dead horse here, but you mentioned compromise about parking.
They have to have at least six parking spots. There's no compromise.
But they don't have 6 spaces. I mean, they might squeeze 6 spaces into the spaces that they're allotted based on the plot plan. But they don't have, and I'm not really sure why they're asking 14, but we tried the other day with 8, and we couldn't get anywhere near the amount of cars. And once the cars are parked in, there's no way anybody in 97 is going to pull in. No way, no how.
I appreciate that. We need to see that proofed out on a piece of paper for us.
And
Just
what-
come down and see it. We'll
and
get you all the cars you need.
What that means, sir, is that they have to draw up a plan that works, and if they can't meet the parking requirement
Yes.
without putting cars in the easement, then they can't, presumably, they have to lease less space, so.
That's right.
It's really something that they have to come back to us with a satisfaction.
I agree. If they, I'm not sure why they're asking for 14 spaces if they only need 6.
Yeah, I had the same question.
Well, we always like to see more than they need, to be honest with you, but not
Of
more
course.
than they need if they're not functional.
Of course,
It
but
doesn't-
there's no parking garage there, so you got what you got, and parking is definitely a problem, for sure.
And they need to show us on a plan how it works.
Yeah, and one other thing too, just one thing, the comment about the two-way on Goldfinch, I've lived there since 2012, 2011. Hasn't been two-way since 2011. I don't know, maybe in the 80s it was, but it wasn't.
This guy's got the memory, trust me.
You come down past Valero's
Yeah,
and you're at the bottom, right there, quick.
yeah.
You used to be able to turn left.
Oh, pull in and pull,
I'll tell you right
I
now.
get you, okay, yeah.
You know, icy and rainy. Unbelievable. I can't believe it didn't get fixed in 1987.
Really?
Or whenever that all happened after it was an asphalt plant. So,
I do remember now that you mentioned that you could pull in, but you had to take a quick right.
yeah.
Yes, of
And as
course, I
far as,
apologize.
while we're on that topic, I remember when Old South Bike Path was put in, and that little jiggle to the left, I don't remember who was talking, but when you pull out, I drove through there all the time, and you do have to look to the left last, because
Definitely.
that's your blind spot, and it's kind of behind you. So what you did with the speed bumps is good for everybody, regardless of whether you live there all the time or not. It doesn't matter. And it's just unfortunate that that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
But Dave is right. We gotta see this parking and this layout a little clearer. I wanna go over there and look at this myself. I've been in there 100 times, but I've never looked at it like we're looking at it right now.
Yeah, you'll see. There's
You know
no,
what
there's
I
no
mean?
movement.
Somebody mentioned another curb cut being a possibility. I don't remember who said that. Somebody said it tonight.
I can tell you that there are 2 curb cuts there. One curb cut is in the grassy area, and then the other curb is where they use it. If you did that and you divided it down the middle, 97 would have very little space to get into the garages of 97, and 99 would have no parking.
So it's one of those curb cuts they got put in years ago.
That
and
never,
just left them.
right.
There's all-
It was supposed to be a lot, I think, at one time, right?
Okay.
You know, and not on the subject of this, but on another subject about the bike path. I assume it's probably not your department that's handling it, but the amount of motorized scooters that are on the bike paths is just insane.
We need this.
And when you're walking with your wife and somebody goes by you at 40 miles an hour,
Agreed. This state has
I
to,
was
the
cooking a
state has
steak the other
to,
night.
has to fix the bylaw so we can fix ours.
you need a statey with a
I was
radar
cooking
gun.
steak the other night, and a kid came up my street, had to be going 30 on his little bike with
Yeah.
his headset, and
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it.
I-
It's just, it's kids not knowing that they've got this freedom. And unfortunately, they're good. They don't burn gasoline. It's a way to go downtown and not have to find a place to park.
Right.
It is, if Joe was here, he'd give you all that information.
Trust me, we would all love to fix it because it is a problem.
Statey with a radar
Be
gun.
careful out there. Thank you. Yes, sir.
So,
Name again, please, just for the record.
Scott Wilson, Chair of the Workshop Board of Trustees. Our attorney, Sarah Alger, concluded her opening remarks by noting that she didn't think there was a way to resolve this. This is about the traffic and the increase in traffic, the tremendous increase in traffic in Naushaa that's going to be occasioned by this. 20 people coming in every day and leaving every day is a lot more. Those roads are private. We pay for them, we repair them, we maintain them. We try to regulate them as much as we can. But this is about changing the character of our neighborhood. And there's something very unharmonious about that. Thank you.
So, yes, we're gonna continue this. I would urge, and I hear you loud and clear, nobody wants this, but I would urge you to sit down with the applicant, make a list of restrictions that would help you guys live with this. If it happens, I'm not saying that we're gonna approve this, but conditions and restrictions on cars, on visitors, on clients, that would help you all feel more comfortable with this, okay? And that will help us if we go down the path to help you. So, we're gonna continue this. The public meeting will still remain open, so next month, you'll still have a chance to come in and speak your mind to us. Yes, sir.
Yeah, my name is Phil Silberstein. My wife and I live at 59 Goldfinch. I mean, listening to everyone here speak so eloquently about some of the issues involved, to me, this is clearly a public safety issue. We're about, if it's approved, you're going to make a bad situation worse. This is the proverbial round peg in a square hole. And as a resident there, I will tell you, if left with the attorney for the applicant, certainly was not a threat, it sounded like one, but I would.
That was the attorney for the homeowner.
No, I don't think so.
It was. It was, Arthur's representing the applicant.
No, I don't think so. I think you have it wrong. You have it wrong.
I'm the attorney for the property owner, not.
This gentleman right here. And you know what? As a resident, I'll take my chances on something else. Thank you very much.
Please don't. Yeah, I mean, I think you guys also have to understand, and I'm not trying to be flippant here, but you guys don't restrict how many deliveries you get. You don't restrict who does construction and how many construction trucks that come in through your neighborhood every day. Landscapers, it goes on. And I get it, but these people are in CN zoning. They have a right to come with this application. You have a right to argue against it. You also have a right to come up with some restrictions that will help protect yourselves. So I don't know where this application is going, but that's where we are at the moment. All right, so I would entertain a motion to continue until September 8th, right? Is that? Yes.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by John, seconded by Nat. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for coming. Thank you for engaging.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter, are you still with us? He's on a panelist.
Yes, I am.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks for hanging in there, Peter. So we have to jump back to vision.
You can stay for the discussion of the vision statement. Is there another?
Even though it's still traffic. All right. No, it's, that was agreeable. Okay, so,
I'd love for people to see.
where are we here? We are, okay, we're backtracking to the vision statement here. Is Peter with us?
Yes, I am.
Peter, welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry, if you all are going to continue to speak, you have to leave the auditorium, please. We have more business.
It'd be great if you wanted to stay for the master plan vision statement because it gets at all of these issues on an island-wide level.
Hi, Peter. Welcome back. I'm sorry. We had a long discussion before you. But the floor is yours.
Well, in that case, thanks for having me. It's great to be here. Dylan Sussman, who presented the draft vision statement at the July 14th meeting, is on vacation. So I'm continuing the discussion that you had at that point. There were a couple of changes, I think, after the discussion that you had at that meeting that Dylan was recommending. And I can go through those if you like.
Sure.
Yeah.
Please.
The first, as I understand it, the second sentence of the statement you found a little bit awkward. What it currently reads is, as a result, we will maintain a thriving year-round community of diverse residents and visitors who can prosper while preserving our beautiful natural and historic resources. And sorry, this is actually Dylan's proposed changes, which I don't think, this was not presented at the meeting on the 14th. So it originally read, as a result, we will maintain a thriving year-round community of diverse residents and visitors who can have a bright future in the context of our beautiful natural and cultural resources. And I believe Dylan's recommended changes was what you're seeing here, which as a result, we want to maintain a thriving year-round community of diverse residents and visitors who can prosper while preserving our beautiful natural and historic resources. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I remember that discussion and expected the change.
And then the other small change was there was an extra S in the 5th bullet under to achieve this vision. Under, instead of vehicle trips, it said vehicles trips. So there was a typo there. And I think, as you know, there were a number of other comments that came in the interim, and I guess I would sort of leave it to you as to whether you want to go through those in detail, and I don't have those in front of me necessarily.
Yeah, I think I don't think anyone has them.
No.
The one in the packet is not
The one in the packet should match this, but what comments did you receive in the interim from the public?
We did not receive any comments that you did not.
Oh,
Just referring to the
sorry, I
ones.
thought you said you did.
No.
Yeah. I had one public comment, the gentleman who had done a lot of work writing, but we had gotten it kind of late, and he had two comments. One was, and Campbell Sutton also made the same comment in our meeting, which was the idea of transforming our greatest challenges into our greatest successes seemed kind of awkward, or like, how can a challenge then be a success? I'm just saying, I kind of agree with that, but those were 2 points of comments. But then the more globally, the comment from that same gentleman whose name escapes me right now was, he was concerned that the language was complicated and convoluted, and that was potentially not accessible to the widest number of people. And I don't think that's a comment on how much, we talked about length a lot, and we made a just concerted effort. We made a deliberate decision that it would be a little more detailed, because some people only read the the vision statement, and we wanted to kind of put everything out there, recognizing that it would then be revisited throughout the plan. But the public comment was, this should be something, this should have like the USA Today approach as far as language. I don't know what you thought about that, but those were the public comments that were funneled to me that I passed on to staff. I don't know if the board agrees. I mean, this is what I do. When I write something and I feel like it's too complicated, you know what, I'm not even going to say it. I just, there is an argument for making making language simple. If people think it's too hard to read and too many clauses and sentences that go on forever, there is an argument and ways to streamline this.
Do you think, Hillary, that applies to like the first part of this? Because there's two parts, right? This is the top bit, and then there's the bullet points. Because, the bullet points for me don't seem complicated. There is a lot in that first part, but the bullet points were there for a reason, that we wanted to be, kind of crystal clear about what it meant. So, I don't know, maybe it doesn't seem too complicated to me, the second part.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
The first part does, even when you look at it, it's a big bite to, I don't know, it's not.
Well, I think that we're beating this thing to
Yeah, I
death,
do
to be
too.
honest with
I
you.
do too.
And I think
Yeah.
that at some point, there's parts that some people don't like.
Yeah,
There's
no.
parts that other people
No.
don't like, but I think we're in general agreement that this is it. I hope. I just think that we can't go farther on this. We've really, let's move on to the substantive part
Yeah.
of this project, to be honest with you. is my
What comes
position.
next?
So.
What are we gonna do with it?
Yeah, I just think we could nitpick this thing for years, and it's not gonna serve us well. We need to be happy with what we've done, and let's move on to the next step, is my position, and I don't know how many agree with me, but that's where I'm at.
I'm okay with that. I just wanted to acknowledge, I guess I just wanted to put out there, does anyone think it's going to be hard for people to read? Not because it's long, but because of the sentence structure and the vocabulary and other things. But I mean, I agree, like how it's a camel is a horse designed by a committee. Like at some point we have to decide that it's good.
The sad truth about it is 40 people might read it. That is the very sad truth of it, unfortunately.
I
Campbell,
just have a quick comment to follow up on the one that I had made in July, I believe, Campbell Sutton. So I had sort of suggested that it say something like by 2045, Nantucket will have worked to transform our greatest challenges. I think to say that we will transform them seems overly committal, because they're big challenges, clean water everywhere, the pristine beaches, we have a lot of challenges. And I think to say something like, will have worked to, in other words, that's the goal, right? And over the next 20 years, that's what we're working to do.
Yeah.
So I'm just throwing that in there because I think Nantucket will transform. I'm a literalist. So to me, that means you're gonna.
Agreed, but it is a vision statement. It's not.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you.
Everyone's vision may be a little different, but I'm just trying to give a little wiggle room on the transformation.
All right. So.
Well, any comments from our consultant on the language? Can I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, you're trying to capture a lot of ideas in a one paragraph, right? Which you're going to be detailing in 100 pages or more of the plan that follows. And to do that, you have to use words that mean a lot. and words that aren't necessarily commonly used by everybody. But I don't think there's a way around that other than to, I mean, if you want it, you could simplify it and turn it into common English by translating each of those words that has a lot of meaning, like diversity, into a statement that, or a sentence that says more about what you actually mean. So it's, to some extent, it's shorthand for big ideas. I don't think you can get away from that very easily. And I think this is a pretty good balance of trying to be clear enough, but also not excessively long. In terms of whether your vision should say that you're going to overcome these things, I'm a big believer in stating the aspiration and trying to live up to it, as opposed to saying, well, we're going to try to do something on these issues. I mean, that's sort of implied, right? The plan is about trying to do something about a lot of complex issues. But I think if the place of a vision statement is to say, we're really this is what our goal is. This is what we hope that Nantucket is in 2045.
Definitely.
At the risk of ruffling feathers, I would entertain a motion to approve this vision statement.
So moved.
Can I, Dave, my apologies to you, I know.
For discussion, go for it.
I also want to adopt this. I have heard from a couple people, and I personally find the transform challenges into successes to be awkward and even something that sets people off a little bit. I would propose that we adopt it with a very small edit, which is that by 2045, Nantucket will have addressed our greatest challenges, blah, blah, blah. Period after inclusive, strike into our greatest successes. It just seems hokey. And then roll right into as a result. And so I'm suggesting that we strike transform and replace it with Nantucket will have addressed, and strike into our greatest successes. And
Addressed is almost what Campbell's saying, without it being.
yeah,
Yep.
exactly.
That's fine. Okay.
And with that one edit appended to John's motion, would second John's motion.
Great.
Agreed.
Thank you. Yeah, everyone agree with that?
Yep.
Aye.
Okay, so, motion made by John, seconded by Hillary, all in favor?
Aye, with the change,
Aye.
With the change, yes.
because
It's, a lot of work is going into this,
like-
and
like we have
we
this
could pull this
control,
apart for
and we
years.
don't really have the control that people think we have.
We
Mr.
can
Chair,
do
can
our
we
best.
lock it then, lock it?
That's it,
Get
we
rid
just
of
did.
all the other versions and send out the last one.
All right, so now we're gonna move on to, the discussion about warrant articles that we just.
We're done. We're not dumping it. We're living it. You're printing it out and putting it on your wall, Matt.
So, I just wanna, I wanna start with making this statement about the ATM warrant articles. I think that the purpose tonight for this discussion is just to, say yay or nay on what we're gonna tackle for next town meeting. Okay? We're not gonna get into the substance of any of these articles, because we will be beating them to death
Yeah.
over the next 2 months in special meetings. So there's one item that was left out of the list that staff gave us, and that was the 4181L.
Oh, thank you.
Does everyone feel comfortable about moving forward with the 4181L that failed last town meeting?
Okay.
Rework, not the same thing. We can have a discussion.
What we need to
can-
do is the 4181L, Leslie, and you have to sharpen
We're
the
not
pencil.
talking about details
We're
here.
not? We're just talking about an article.
We're just saying that it's on the list.
That it's on the
Oh,
list,
I
and
think we
everyone's
should
happy
put
with
it
it on the list.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Because we'll come back to this.
Real quick, before we get into this, I see our consultant is still on
Oh,
Zoom,
Peter?
so
Oh.
if
That's
we could
what I
just
was
tell
worried
Peter,
about.
thank you, and
Peter-
we're done with that.
Peter, thank you. We all agreed to approve it with some minor changes, and we can't thank you enough for all the
Yeah.
work you've done.
Thank you for
Thank
holding
you,
our
Peter.
hands and steering us
And,
through all
and
of
putting
this.
up with
Thank you
us.
for listening to the Norshop discussion. Which was approved in one vote, by the way, that project, just like, on one meeting, rather.
All right, let me, so we're all comfortable with the 4181L.
We need to look at it again, yes.
Yes, we're gonna look at it
I
again.
didn't know that's what you were saying.
RC2 phase out, again,
We're
as
almost-
most of you know, this has been going on for a decade, if not longer. Longer, and so, we'd like, put in an effort to put this to rest at the next town meeting, if everyone's amenable to that.
We have a couple that we need to wait on, some neighborhoods that are reorganizing and creating roads where driveways currently exist, so those would be Pinecrest and
Yeah, I knew
Egan.
that's who you were
We
gonna bring up.
might,
The pork chop one.
We might
yeah,
not be
we
able to be ready
might
for that.
be ready for, is it Egan or Pinecrest? One of them's almost ready.
Egan may be moving forward with that process in the next month or two at the county commissioner, so it's really gonna depend on
Okay.
whether that happens
All
or not.
Okay. STRs.
I thought
So-
we'd wait for last.
So well, I guess here's the question. I don't know how many of you watched the select board last week, but they have basically put it in our lap.
Yeah,
They want us, they would like us to come up with an article that is a consensus article as best we can do.
I think we should have 2 articles.
Well, listen,
That's what I think.
so do you agree to tackle this SDR? I mean, I don't see that we have a choice. The select board's giving it to
It's
us.
too bad, we're more worried about windmill lights than we are about the STRs. That's really sad.
What?
We're more worried about windmill lights than we are the STR issue, and I can tell you, this is a bigger issue than windmill lights.
Mr. Chairman, I've always wondered
Serious.
this question about why is it that town council hasn't written proposed language on this? And now they've heard so much from so many people
So,
that they really
in the
understand.
beginning, we as a board supported a warrant article to resolve this, and it was a town council written warrant article.
So may I recommend that you start with a town council recommendation of what it should be and then bring it to this group?
I think what we need to do is start with the stakeholders, to be honest with you, and to
But you've heard-
understand where everyone
But this
is.
has been talked about for years. We kind of know what everybody has been thinking about.
There's been a lot
It's just
more-
not consensus.
You know what, there's been a lot more movement in the past 2 months than I've seen in 5.5 years, to be honest with you, because I've been sitting down with these people.
What have you seen?
Well, I've seen Peter McCausland move way to the center from his position. I've seen another group of people sit down and have an honest discussion about how they could support many things as long as they were comfortable with enforcement. And that is not a position, that's a new position for them, and I think it's an admirable position. So I think we've seen a lot of movement. I have hope. I do have hope. So I think there's more discussions to be had, both privately, or not privately, but with them individually, and then in this room in a public setting. But I do have hope, fingers crossed, that we can get there.
Yes, Mr. Chair, are you able to, and if you're not, that's okay, but, so it's in our lap, but what's our process gonna be to?
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah, that's,
I think our process is, I mean, right, so I've already started, both Tom from the select board and myself have met with stakeholders. We continue to meet with stakeholders. I meet with more tomorrow morning, more the next day. And to just kind of explore limits, where they're willing to go, what they're willing to do, what they want. A great meeting with Emily, trying to understand where the Land and Water Council is and what their true desire is here. And figure a way we can hopefully address it in a way that create support from them, because I don't think without healthy support from each corner, we're gonna get anything done.
I'm wondering if, is there a role here, like for a little, that doesn't contravene open law meetings, a little subgroup that's doing some work to bring it forward in a way that we can all see it sort of regularly and.
I think we all need to be in the room.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, and I know that I'm kind of out of the room for meeting with people, but I'm happy to openly discuss those meetings with anyone, and those people will be coming in this room and having that discussion.
Yeah, I support the planning board, sorry, can I jump in?
Of
Or do
course.
what you?
Yeah.
Okay. I feel that I've been wanting the planning board and the planning staff to bring the skills of writing zoning code and building public consensus to the table on this issue for a long time. And having paid quite close attention to it since 2019, after that meeting, the COVID tent meeting, the planning director said, the planning board's gonna own this, and we're gonna deliver something. And we just lost, it just didn't work out that way. And I'm not, that is water under the bridge, and there's been a lot of learning from that process. But I do think it's time for the community to recognize that this is not just, like, who are stakeholders? Someone once said to me, oh, where's my stakeholder card? We are all
Everybody.
stakeholders. Everyone are
The future generation
stakeholders.
that owns a house here is the biggest. stakeholder.
Everyone is a stakeholder. And Nat, thank you for saying that. The future generations that do or don't own a house here are very big stakeholders.
for it.
And the point of planning boards, there are many points of planning boards, but one important characteristic that's unique to a planning board is that we can convene public hearings and we can invite the public to come and tell us what they think openly from everybody. We saw that tonight, and there's a great benefit to letting people come and be heard as long as they know that we're listening to them. A second skill that planning boards and staff bring is that, we're having this discussion like every place needs to be the same. We don't treat all the areas of the island the same.
Yeah.
And we've never had a discussion on this island that we are currently in the possession of several small area plans that were accepted by the NPDC, meaning that they are legitimate plans where the areas have said, we don't want short-term rentals. And I'm sure people are saying, well, that's not gonna happen. And I'm not saying, therefore we should ban short-term rentals to that area. We couldn't do it. It's not going to happen. However, we have to pay attention to the fact that we did accept area plans that say different things depending on the area. So I'll just stop there, but I think that we bring planning skills. We recognize that not all areas are the same, and that ultimately planning is a community process, and we can make that possible as well.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I respect very much what you're saying, and I believe that you're 100% right as a concept to go forward with that. I am asking simply mechanically, that's one step. What mechanically are we going to do to map out, to get to the end game here? That's all I'm asking. So you need to know what people are gonna do, and then what are you gonna do?
So I'm not sure I understand the question.
Well, I'm talking about the process. What's the process to
The
get to?
process is gonna we understand what people want, and then we sit at this table and we pound it out.
Well, let me have a try at that, because I agree with that, but we won't be able to do that if we tack STRs onto each one of our monthly meetings for 20 minutes.
No, there's gonna be a
No,
special
it's gotta
meeting.
be.
No, it will be,
Yeah.
there will be special meetings
Yeah.
surrounding all of these
Yeah.
ATM articles.
That's all I'm
that are
asking for,
focused
Mr. Chair, that we,
specifically on that article.
yeah, we just
And-
recognize that this
Yeah,
needs
oh yeah, that,
time.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
that's the process we've
Yeah.
always done for, but I think this is, as far as STRs, this is gonna be a more intense process because it's a more intense situation. Mine's on, I'm maybe
Mine's
too
on.
far away, sorry. I think that, and I agree with all of you. I think though that we all need to sit down and have honest discussions about the structure of those regulations. You know, we've all heard loud and clear that people want regulations in zoning. Well, any planner worth their weight in gold will tell you that is the dumbest idea in the world. But in this town, in this situation, we don't have a choice. There's gonna have to be something in there, right? And then when we get beyond that, we need to talk about general bylaws and how those fit into the puzzle. So that's the mechanics of it. And I think that's when we understand better the parameters we have to work in that will gain the most votes, then we start figuring out, well, this should go in zoning and the rest of this should go here or nothing. I think unfortunately in this process, we have seen that nothing will pass unless there are significant safeguards entrenched in zoning.
I think you started to answer my question. You want to bifurcate this between planning and zoning. Is that right? As an ultimate, like.
I think in the end, the
step in
regulation will
process.
be bifurcated between zoning and a general bylaw, yeah.
Right. So your goal is to figure out what it is that people want and program it, and then bifurcate it into those two topics and make a draft of text that
And bring them
represents that.
all in here and we have it out again, you know?
There's also an element of learning from other towns that I feel we haven't created space for in our process to date. I don't know if you all agree, but this is a worldwide conversation. You know, I have an article at home that someone put through my mailbox from the Financial Times about Wales and all of the tax incentives and restrictions. Now, you know, obviously we have our own code of laws in our country and in Massachusetts, but I'm just saying I'm not sure, since we've heard so often from the same people, being the political action groups, people who have large businesses renting, and NAREB, I'm not sure we've heard all of the options that we could potentially bring to the table. And I don't feel that we've been educated by our staff about what you're hearing when you go to planning meetings and you talk to your colleagues in other towns. So I think there's a role for some learning. We haven't had a study on how short-term rentals are affecting housing. It's a lot of it is about the economy. We haven't really talked about the inflationary pressure or deflationary pressure of short-term rental activity on housing prices and availability. So those are some of the educational opportunities I would like to have.
I think that those are all noble ideas. We ain't gonna have time.
Well, why don't we have time?
Because this needs to be resolved at next town meeting,
Well,
or there's gonna be further issues.
is that really, is there an opportunity for a sunset clause potentially on something? There's also the possibility, I know we closed the warrant in January. I've seen towns where they, this happened in Brookline, they had to close the warrant, but then they called a special town meeting within their town meeting. And they could call it, it gave them a lot more time. So I just think there's some, I guess I don't want to be hasty and then fail again, because every time we rush, we need to get something that 2/3 will vote for.
And I have to be honest with you, I don't think, like, not all this is based in reality.
It's not.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, you listen to the talking points.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, we lost 600 homes to short-term rentals. Well, that's.
you don't believe that?
Our shy list went up by 200 numbers the last census, which means we have 2,000 more year-round houses.
Right, because we taxpayers paid to build them.
Well, some of them and some of them they didn't. But we created more housing. We didn't, you know, this focus on we lost 600 houses. The other one is, you know, we're losing year-round housing to short-term rentals. Well, we're not. What's happening is local people are selling to off-islanders.
That's it.
You know, so I think, you know, mini hotels on every corner, yeah, there is a number of houses that rent for more than 200 days a year, and I think everyone agrees they don't want those anymore. For here, it's not, my experience in this is it's not based on the reality and the numbers, this is an emotional argument we're having with people. That's what this comes down to, because you can lay out the data and show someone the data and they're still gonna go, nope, that's all wrong. So I think that, I agree with you. I sat on the work group for a year.
Yep.
And we had a struggle to get data and information within a year. Are we gonna put this off for 2 years to get the information?
I just want to point out, we're having the discussion you didn't want to have.
Well, we're not, but yes, I agree. I just think that we don't have the time, and I'm not sure that the information we would get would sway the voters that we need to sway to get this passed. It may sway us, we may fully understand it, but it's not gonna stop the poison phrases of gutting zoning and mini hotels, it's just not. So
I mean, the only
we need to
difference,
address
Mr. Chair,
that.
is this time, though, there is a sword hanging over our head.
Yes.
There is.
Which has never been there before. So I think, to Hillary's point, though, see, this will be, when we get to town meeting, if we've done this in a halfway decent manner, I think we can get people there because of, if not this, it's Judge Vey.
But the information she's asking for is not attainable in the next 6 months.
Maybe, yeah, but maybe
It's
we
just
could
not.
see
And-
what might.
Maybe there's some, maybe there's some.
And I don't disagree that short-term rentals have an impact on how much a house costs, whether they're available. But I would argue that the biggest impact on how much things cost here is the finite amount of dirt we have and the proximity to very wealthy suburban areas all along the East
Yeah, all of
Coast.
it.
And that's what drives our housing prices. SDRs might adjust it a little bit each way, but not a lot, in my opinion.
People that don't have to rent.
I just want to make a
right?
quick comment, just to interrupt.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, let me get, Mr. Hurley
That's
was
fine.
standing first.
Yeah.
Mr. Hurley.
Didn't want to interrupt the delicious dialogue of this board here. And I don't know you, Dave, but I've listened to you for 5 years on this, and you must know more about this than most consultants in the country.
I hope not.
I just want to make 2 comments that I think could help the process. I can tell you that there's a whole bunch of people in the dark out there about the discussions that are going on today. And at the last select board meeting, first Tom and then yourself afterwards, indicated that they wanted to make this a transparent process. I think that's very, very critical because it looks like it's a bunch of groups, arming up.
No, I think it looks that way now, and that's because we just have not gotten into the public meeting process.
I
Which is
understand.
gonna happen fairly soon, I would
I'm just
imagine.
trying to come.
No, I get that.
I'm
It's
trying
very
to
important.
speak from the trenches.
Yeah, no,
So, and they're arming up on both sides, some that you've been able to listen to and a lot that you haven't, I mean, there's always the threat of, let's just go right to a special town meeting and that kind of thing, and that type of stuff. So that's one thing. The other thing that I think would calm things, and I don't know how to do this, because I'm about the least expert in this room about town government, but if you can adopt an attitude or a principle or a statement of, we're going to try and do no harm here. We're not out to get you. We want this community that you're talking about, not only the 78-year-old in front of you, but all of his grandkids to be able to enjoy that vision in 2045. Do no harm is our mantra. Now, there's never perfection, and we probably could have had an answer to this if we didn't let perfection be the enemy of good here, but we came close a couple of times. So transparency, do no harm, and then maybe we can not have instant solutions of, okay, let's get that other 65 votes and get it on, Y in the right column and goodbye, and that's one thing. And the other thing is, okay, now you can't have your place anymore, Mike, because I've got these ideas about the way you should run it, and
The only
that's all I had to say,
Yeah,
really.
no, that was our mantra in the work group. It was 100%, do no harm,
And you actually did a good job.
but it was too complex because we did no harm.
We just couldn't sell it.
That's gonna be something we're all gonna have to figure out in the next 3 months, how to do that.
So I still want my date with you and Tom this week.
I think we have it, right?
I haven't heard about it.
Oh, I don't think we've decided a time, but yeah, we are gonna meet.
Anyway, that's great.
Okay.
But those process things will quell the waters a lot if you can pull them off. Thanks.
Thank you.
I was just going to remind you that it is a list. But I also, one of the things that keeps happening in my viewing of it is we end up with 5 or 6 different things, and that splits the vote every time. And somehow, it's not just the stakeholders that have the big money that are spending for the signs and the bumper stickers and, the sky is falling, the world's ending, and yada. There are voters out there that are voting, right? And they're not helping push it over the line to I believe you need 66% or 2/3, right? So as he was speaking, I was thinking maybe those kitchen table conversations, I don't know, informal, people could have an opportunity to do that with people, because it's really trying to
When we
collect opinions.
When Nantucket
Like,
finally
why are you
passed
not
zoning,
voting for it?
They held a public hearing, the planning board passed zoning in the 73. Two.
But it got tried
They
twice.
held a public hearing every week for 6 weeks until basically, all the information was out there. So I think there needs to be a lot of engagement. But I also, I'm really asking Leslie and Megan to bring us, we need the help of staff who can, really be impartial and say, this is what other towns have done that maybe we're not thinking about. I mean, that's what I see other towns do. I spend a lot of time looking at what other towns do. And there's a role for professional planners bringing information to the table for us to consider. And I don't feel that we hear from you enough.
Well, most other towns, like Nantucket and the Cayman Islands, don't have this in their zoning. So that's how most other towns are dealing with it. They have regulations through the Board of Health. We talked a lot about it when Dave was on the work group internally. So it's not that we haven't brought forward ideas. And also, I think we all know Nantucket is a different place where, lots of people have different ideas about how things should be handled, as we've seen through 5 years of special town meetings and regular town meetings where no one can decide on
And
how to handle that.
I'm not
so.
trying to be critical. I'm really inviting a chance to learn from you, to learn from our staff and be guided, because I think it's the board's opportunity to deliberate, but you're talking to your colleagues all the time. But I already said that. so.
We're a different town.
But they have
I
A lot of other
towns
towns
everywhere.
have like one warrant article, one citizen's warrant article in a town meeting, and we have 30. So we're a different
But just
place.
on this issue, but you started by saying you just want the list, and then and Howard rightly brought up, well, you need a roadmap, you need an agreement, and it sounds like people are willing to put in the time, and what we've heard is that folks wanted to be in this room. But I think we need to hear from some people who, have something to share with us, who aren't from, who are experts on housing, who have worked with short-term rental issues. I know Nantucket is always different, but we can learn from other towns.
Oh, 100%.
And I'd like to see that happen. But I also have some other things that I wanted to add to the list.
Okay, let me
Whenever we're ready to
let
get
me
to
get
it.
through the list.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
we have had a hand up online for a while. Stephen Cohen.
okay.
Oh my God, I didn't know that, sorry.
Hey, Stephen, welcome.
Is he there?
Hi, Mr. Chairman. I have a special permit that I thought was going to be heard tonight. It was filed in June and it was supposed to be heard tonight. It's for a 20% rule special permit. Is that on the agenda? Did we skip it?
No, that was not filed on time, so it
20%?
we don't have that for this meeting.
Oh, I know.
It was filed in June and it was too late for the July meeting, which is why it's supposed to be tonight.
I honestly, Stephen, I know nothing about this.
Yeah. Do you have it in your file on for a different day?
I'd be happy to talk with you about this offline, Stephen, but
Yeah,
that
okay, so it's
the
not
application
on for
was not
tonight.
submitted correctly, so I'd be happy to discuss it with you offline.
Okay, I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Good to hear your voice, Stephen.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Okay.
Four.
So, ADUs, I think that's
Yes.
mandatory.
Yes.
We all agree with
Invite
that.
the no-shop people back in.
We have CRAC who are interested in some zoning changes or overlay districts, correct?
Yeah, so I want to point out, I've been working with Leah Hill as well as some of the consultants that her office has been working with, as well as Doug Rose. There's some changes to the FEMA maps and there's going to have insurance implications, so it's really just to align those two things as what it is through overlay districts, and to make some technical, non-substantive changes to some of the language in our existing overlay.
One sentence on ADUs. The state permits you to do an ADU bylaw prohibiting STRs.
Only if they're defined in our zoning bylaw, which they're not at the moment.
Well,
So we're working on
more
that.
motivation.
How's the person?
Sorry, I didn't mean.
No, that's okay. No.
But it'd be great to have year-rounders in ADUs.
It would be, but it makes it very difficult, the way they wrote the law.
Well-
We'll talk about it. We've agreed that we're gonna address that. So that's everything listed,
I
correct?
did want to say that the EOHLC is having ADU office hours. You guys probably know all about this. Once a month on every second Wednesday, 3 to 4, and you can register for them, so we should take advantage of that.
Wait, hold on.
Okay.
Hillary, did you
Yes,
have
I wanted
things
to
you wanted
suggest that
consider?
we might be ready to have town meeting accept our master plan. We've always had town meeting accept the
Oh,
master
no,
plan. Oh, you're not, know if it's going to be
I
ready.
just don't know if
Oh.
we're gonna be ready at this point. No, I 100% agree that it should go to town meeting, but I'm not sure it's gonna be ready for prime time at that point.
Well, we should have it on as a placeholder, right?
Okay.
I think
Yep, I agree. As a placeholder.
we have to have that build-out analysis organized. Meaning, so that it doesn't freak people out, you know? We have to.
And then
Because
the
it's
last thing that I
ridiculous.
wanted to mention, so when I think about the big issues that, there are a number of big issues that planning should be involved with, but we have a large parcel of land that is currently underutilized at our harbor front, which has been studied ad nauseum in the past. I'm talking about Wilkes Square and Harbor Place.
Yeah.
Currently, there's, an appeal active of a demolition. Of course, that is a planning issue. Historic preservation is a planning issue. So I wondered if maybe our staff could think and the board could think about if it's time to have, to rekindle either a small area plan or some sort of funded study again of our waterfront. We have mooted the idea of bringing forward zoning changes for that area, which is currently RC, to change it to CDT. That was opposed, that was recommended against by the Historical Commission. I had a role with that. But we don't want to fly by the seat of our pants with that. And we don't want to be reacting just to, you know, a commercial opportunity that presents itself. We want to guide and create the opportunity. And it's really, really important. I mean, I consider that, I talked about it as the tectonic plate of Nantucket. It will have a huge impact on our historic district. So I just wanted to put out there the idea that we might initiate some assistance, either grant funded or ask the taxpayers to fund it, to help us make a vision, including zoning implications for that area.
We don't have enough time to talk about Harbor Place tonight, I don't think. But I would
No,
love to talk about it, but
Yeah, I
it's a
mean,
lot.
it's
I
important.
agree with you with, we have to make deals. This is a deal-making spot. They need CDT. It's ridiculous. You can't, it's a non-starter to not have CDT there. I mean, 30 feet, how are you gonna have 30 feet down there?
I mean, I just
Downtown
told you
is
that
about 30
that
feet.
the Historical Commission recommended against that.
I know,
So-
but that's crazy.
so
The
I'm-
whole
well, it's
downtown
not
is over
crazy.
40 feet.
Listen, I don't, this is a debate for another day.
And you're supposed to
just
raise
saying,
you're
should
supposed
we
to
make a
raise the buildings
placeholder?
10 feet higher. How are you gonna have?
Shall we make a placeholder on the list of town? Is this something that needs to go to town meeting so that we can ask for funding for this sort of a study to create the time and space? The NPNEDC could say they want to have a small area plan done of the area, but it can't be, you know, it needs funding to do it right.
So the planning board and staff did take the lead in, I think it was 2009, may have been 2010, with Wilkes Square.
Yeah.
We hired CBT architects in Boston to come and do, you know, a lot of community outreach. We had a couple of days, I think, at the Legion, where people were invited to come and provide their input. We set up a tent at Stroll, had people provide their input. Ultimately, we did have sort of a plan.
Yeah, it's a
for the
very
area.
good plan.
And then there were a few iterations after that that involved planning staff, town administration staff, owners of the properties, planning board members, finance committee members, select board members, and, you know, that had, you know, there's a lot of opinions, I guess, about that property and what should or shouldn't be there, how it should or shouldn't be used. And now it's down to two primary property owners, New England Development and National Grid. They may or may not be having their own conversations. I meet pretty much monthly with John Tuig, New England Development, and he and I have talked about that site a lot over the years. So I think right now, nothing's really moving for quite a few reasons, but it's certainly something that, you know, it's an important site. It's really the gateway to the island.
Yeah.
The airport.
It's the
I
new
would
gateway to
just,
the airport.
I think it's, especially if you're, you know, it's encouraging to hear that you're having monthly conversations with, you know, someone with the capacity and the ability to do something down there, because we do need a private, you know, we need a private entity, but we have to bring the community into the conversation and have a vision for that area that people can get excited about, that also takes into account all the coastal resiliency issues, the issues of, you know, the pollution that's down there, the Chapter 91 issues. It's just really complicated. So anyway, but do you think it needs to be, is it something for this list of the warrant to make it kind of raise it to that level where people vote on it and say, yes, we want to fund a study with a certain timeline? Or is it something you just want to continue to have staff
Well,
handle?
if it's something that the planning board or the planning commission wants to prioritize, I can program it in, whether or not it'll get approved or not, but I can program it into my budget presentation with the town administration budget team. And, then the budget ultimately goes to town meeting. So it wouldn't need to be a separate article. But
Okay.
That's sort of how that process would work.
Okay, thank you.
I think, Leslie, this whole, how I talk about the amnesia report. So I think we have to do a little mini amnesia report on this place. What we were talking about before is not, it's, a lot of the stuff's off the table now.
Parking garage?
The parking garage is, in my opinion, not, it takes up too much space that we need for other things. The plan for where the Stop and Shop would go is kind of been, I don't think there's 10 people that know that, what that was. It's like, stuff has been forgotten, and things have changed. A lot of things have changed. The soil and all that, they've had tons of stuff going on down there. There's oil everywhere downtown, so I don't like to get into that conversation because it's everywhere. So I think this is what I call the final resting place, the final plan. Like, this is it. We have Highline, we have the worst circling, parking, waiting thing going on down there with those stupid cones in the summer, which I'm not gonna get into why they're there. You would not believe it if you knew the truth. It is insane. And there's a lot of ways to improve. So I see this is the biggest potential public-private partnership. We can get what we want, and they can get what they want. Because even 10 years ago, people weren't, I don't think they were married to Straight Wharf being sort of the gateway year-round in a different way than the steamship gateway is. And I think that that's sort of settled in. I think a lot of the questions and the complaints, and they see it coming now. Did we even have the second cable when we started talking about this? I don't think we did.
I think we did.
We did have the second cable then? Okay, because this has been a while.
But the High Line was not the new airport back then.
I didn't quite.
It was just becoming,
It's just the way it is now.
Yeah.
And Angles Club is moving, although I don't know why they would have wanted to do that, but that's another story.
And I'm not sure they are.
I have a feeling that I was like the worst, best idea. I'm like, why are they moving from that spot? But anyway, I think we need to reset the entire Harbor Place and not have it be controversial with zoning versus the existing RC zoning is ridiculous. Like, we got rid of it to get rid of hotels out of town.
I agree, but
you know?
we can't
If I
start
could
with the
interrupt
zoning. We have to start with what
momentarily.
we want to do,
We
what
want
we
it to look
want
like.
for that area. But I think Leslie's carried out,
No.
cleared up that it doesn't have to be its own item.
Right.
It can just go as part of the budget. So it's,
I'll
we
close-
can, it's
I'll close
not
with
part
this one
of this
thing, Hillary, that you'll
discussion.
like. There isn't a local resident on this island in the last 50 years that doesn't think that A&P parking lot is theirs. Like, they think it's their lot, like the
Well-
right to park, and it's just the truth. And that is something that we need to
But Nat,
realize
it
it's not.
actually is their lot. It's a chapter 91 public benefit lot.
Yeah, okay.
I'd like to interrupt for a minute because I think we're way off topic.
Yeah.
So while I appreciate the importance of what Hillary has brought up for maybe a, to-do list on NP and EDC and with planning, as far as going for the 2026 annual town meeting, I think your short-term rental should be your main focus. And I think this other stuff needs to go to the side. And I'm just saying that because I think
ADUs and the
Wilk
rental.
Square is very important, but if we barely have time to get the STR thing straightened out, I like concentrated effort and.
No, I
like
agree with that.
So that's all I'm saying.
It's just
Sorry.
fun to talk about something different, Campbell.
Well, I get it, but I'm trying to close up the list.
We are the planning board.
I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Yeah,
To adjourn.
second.
Sorry.
Motion made by John, seconded by Nat. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right,
Thank you.
okay. Oh.
Something different.